This is Adam Graham from Pretty Much the Present, bringing you a week of old-time radio podcasts. These episodes were originally released back in 2011, and we're releasing them here pretty much as is, with only some extraneous bits such as the opening from all of the episodes after the first episode removed. Because these are old, it should be noted that any offers or promotions mentioned in the episode may not be valid unless they're currently mentioned on the Great Detectives website. Here now is a week of old-time radio detective podcast. Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. If you have a comment, email it to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Give me a call, 208-991-4783. Well, before we do get started with today's program, I do want to encourage you to check out greatdetectives.net and our weekly articles. I write a lot of articles, normally one or two per week, and they end up posted on the weekends, reviewing audio dramas, mystery books, a lot of the classics, as well as writing about classic television and radio programs. So if that's your interest, you can read the articles for free over at greatdetectives.net. You can also have the articles delivered automatically to you on your Kindle, and that service is available for a 2-week free trial. Just put Great Detectives of Old Time Radio in the Amazon search box, or we also have a handy link over in the sidebar. Well, we're going to take a listen now to today's episode of Barrie Craig, Confidential Investigator. The title is Song of Death.
William Gargan stars as Barrie Craig, confidential investigator.
There's a big house up the river that always has the welcome mat out, folks. Just drop in. Any old crime.
The National Broadcasting Company presents William Gargan in another transcribed drama of mystery and adventure with America's #1 detective, Barrie Craig, confidential investigator.
Barrie Craig speaking. The streamlined confidential operator keeps a case file with a nod to police regulations and with an eye to posterity. A book of memoirs someday, you figure, to show your grandchildren you were full of hustle yourself once upon a time. You keep a well-detailed file. Case number so-and-so, the nature of the crime, the principal actors, the outcome. And page 1 stating by who and just how were you pulled into the felony in the first place. Take the file in my hand right now, numbered 113. Who asked me into the case reads Father Neptune. Father Neptune, old man C. Case I worked gratis. The old man didn't even throw me a fish. I'd been at a sailing over to West Side Pier, seeing a friend off. I hung around the docks for a while, walking off the champagne and canopies, and wondering what there is about a lonesome river at night that makes the little man inside you cry. Well, about that time, Father Neptune decided to take my thoughts off me and transfer them to a mermaid in the drink. A drowning mermaid, the way it sounded. Where are you? Oh, December is a great month for a dip into the river if you're a polo bear, but in I went. Hey, grab a hold of me. Hey, I didn't say a stranglehold. Cooperate with your rescue, lady, or I'll have to. Okay, much as I hate to. On the pier, it took time to bring her to. I worked her arms, pump handle style, and water sprayed from her like a fountain. She finally came around to join the battle of the sexes.
You hit me.
To break your stranglehold. It's in the book.
What book?
How to save hysterics from drowning themselves and the rescuer.
Oh. You didn't have to hit me so hard. Oh, my jaw. Feel the welt.
Got my brand on it now. B.C.
B.C.?
Barrie Craig. The initial man's ring I'm wearing left initials on your jaw.
You're crazy.
And cold.
Yeah, me too.
Pray it's pneumonia.
Well, why that?
There's no cure for a cold.
So?
There's a cure for pneumonia. Penicillin.
You are crazy.
You want an ambulance?
Definitely not.
A police wagon?
Don't you dare.
Then what?
Your place?
Is that proper?
How can I know? We've only just met, Barrie.
We got into dry things, and properly enough to rate a good conduct medal from the mayor. I got a hard, square look at my mermaid. Okay, a face and a figure that makes truck drivers water their whistles.
Penny for your thoughts.
I'm wondering
About?
how many lies you're going to tell before you tell the truth.
No more than I can help, I promise.
Your name?
Susan Lane.
What made you go for a swim?
But I can't swim.
That's what I mean.
I fell into the river by accident. I was walking and my foot caught on a loose board on the pier and...
Start all over again.
I wasn't pushed in.
No?
No. Fact is, I jumped in.
Why?
I'm like that. Peculiar. I get fed up with things.
Things like...
Nothing special, just life, men, the way the world is. I just get an uncontrollably morbid impulse, and then I'm sorry.
What if nobody happens along to save you for the next impulse?
Goodbye, Susan Lane. She wasn't much.
Oh, excuse me. Hello?
Hello. Have I got the right party?
Have you?
Well, I mean, are you the Joe who pulled the blonde out of the drink?
The name isn't Joe.
I followed you to your joint, white guy.
And my phone number?
Your name's in the bell, Barrie Craig, and your number's in the book.
I see.
Are you interested in hearing what I got to tell you?
I've heard nothing so far.
Well, open your ears, stupid. Hey, don't believe anything the dame tells you.
I don't.
What'd she tell you so far?
That dill pickles make her hiccup.
Okay, be a dope.
All right. She said she'd attempted suicide.
Baloney. She was tossed into the drink, picked up off the ground, and thrown to the fish.
You know that?
I saw.
Where do you fit into this?
We won't go into that. Another thing. Paste this song title in your hat. Sugarloaf Mama.
Sugarloaf Mama.
It's number one in the jukebox, you stupid. Where do you spend your nights?
Standing up in a closet to improve my posture.
Well, the song's the key to the whole deal with a girl. Now make like a detective. Goodbye.
I made like a detective with Susan.
All right, I did lie. Somebody attempted my life.
Who?
He wore a mask.
And why?
I don't know.
Oh, we're sure making progress.
I can't tell you what I don't know.
I suppose I might as well skip asking, who was with me on the telephone?
Skip asking me.
The song, Sugarloaf Mama. What about it?
It's a huge popular success.
I heard.
I work for the music publisher who owns it. I'm his stenographer.
The publisher owns it, you say? Did the publisher also write the song?
Yes, but that's something now in dispute.
Between whom?
Mr. Sampson, the publisher, my boss, and a songwriter, Mervyn Marlowe. They're fighting a lawsuit over the song rights, over the profits.
And you come in where?
I'm a witness for Mr. Sampson.
Testifying to what?
That my boss never personally received a song submitted by Mervyn Marlowe. That it's our firm policy to return unsolicited manuscripts unopened.
Who's telling the truth? Your boss Sampson or this Marlowe?
You ask a lot of questions.
One of them may be trying to murder you.
Yes, I know.
Don't you care?
Do you?
What if I do?
Then you'll protect me and worry about me. Now, I want to get back into my clothes and go home.
Oh, here. Your duds. The radiator steam dried them. Use the kitchen.
Thanks.
And don't forget this.
This? Oh, my ring.
Hey, quite a rock.
Don't be fooled. It's only a cheap Mexican diamond.
I'd never believe it. A lightning change of wardrobe, and we were on the street, arm in arm, like we'd been engaged since the high school prom.
Call a cab, Barrie.
Taxi! Hey, taxi! Want company going home?
I was wondering when you'd ask me. Get in.
Don't try it, cousin.
Huh? You just say something?
I said stay out of my cab.
Now, wait a minute. Oh,
You were going to make a quarrel out of it?
that was before your gun.
Barrie.
The gun's pointing at me, Susan.
Yeah, relax, lady. All you stand to lose is his company.
What's my loss?
Skin. Off the top of your head. Now, I want 10 minutes before you phone the cops.
One favor, please.
What?
Do it to me over here, close to the left ear.
What's a gag?
You're not the first to take a liking to my head.
Oh. The rest of your head's still sore, huh?
And unhealed. If you're going to.
Sure. Close to the left ear.
You fall down and you get up. You're still the same guy, except that your legs have aged 10 years and your hat doesn't fit. While looking for a phone booth, I put one and one together. My anonymous caller and the kidnapping cab driver add up to one guy, the same guy.
Hello.
Give me Lieutenant Trav Rogers, please.
You've got him, Craig.
Oh, well, your voice is changing, Trav.
Should I worry?
Over losing a squeaky soprano?
Is this an official call or are you just passing the time?
It's official.
What about?
Mayhem in December. I found a girl and lost her.
Sad. I can refer you to a Lonely Hearts Club.
A torpedo masquerading as a hacky put the snatch on her.
More facts, please.
Susan Lane, 5'2", blonde, blue eyes, wrinkled dress that needs ironing.
A wrinkled dress.
Stop prying into my inner life. The hacky, so-called, was heavy-set, meat-faced, with jowls like Pluto the dog. A brown and white taxi cab.
Did you get the license number?
No, I was about to when I fell down and hurt my head.
You were assaulted?
If there's a law against slugging confidential investigators,
There isn't. We hand out decorations for it here at headquarters. What danger's the girl in?
catching a cold.
Catching a cold.
A permanent cold. Send out a general alarm, Trav. She's too beautiful to die.
Who isn't?
Now. No personality. Goodbye now. Eli Sampson, music publisher, occupied a building that looked like an inferiority complex. Calcimine streaks for paint. Outside windows with the dust of ages on them. And a broken down staircase that made you feel like a dinosaur walking on eggs. The staircase was going to loom big in my future, as I soon found out. The first warning I had was a shot. Correction, 2 shots, and then a yell from an upper landing. A yell of bloody murder enough to freeze me in my tracks. I stood still automatically in the middle of the staircase, and that was my undoing. What sounded like a stampeding herd was coming smack at me. Him was a wild-eyed maniac who looked like he jumped out of a straitjacket.
Out of my way, you.
I'd love to oblige, but narrow like the staircase is, it's a bottleneck.
I said out of my way.
I'll need time to shift to reverse.
Let me do it for you.
I got relocated in the world with splinters of railing stuck in me like toothpicks. And a guy standing solemnly over me. A janitor holding a mop and a soap bucket. A janitor out of a Mac Sennett comedy, flowing mustache and dressed in the top half of a cutaway, with a battered derby on his head, a brown derby.
You seem fully recuperated, my boy.
Not recuperated, only recovered. What was that railing tied together with? Pieces of string?
Iron glue. I myself performed the repairs. Here, I'll help you up.
Oh, don't bother. What are you made up for?
You refer to my elegance?
To the mop and the bucket.
A temporary condition, my boy. The mare is down, the mare is up.
Up, being
stocks and bonds.
Oh.
I fluctuate as it fluctuates. You're, staring at me?
Yeah, trying to place you. I've seen that odd kisser of yours before.
Along the stock exchange, perhaps?
No. Who did all that shouting on the upper landing?
It was me, summoning help.
Who got shot?
One Eli Sampson. The miscreant fugitive who butted you so unceremoniously.
You'll get nuts in your tongue, Lemaire. Mind if I leave you for Sampson?
Not at all. I'm in no mood to be interviewed today. The market is down.
I found Sampson in his office, fluttering his eyelids. How do you feel?
Dead.
That makes you a talking corpse. You got a career in vaudeville ahead.
Oh, that maniac Mervyn Marlowe murdered me.
Yeah. Burned your left wrist a little. Only a flesh wound. Not much damage for 2 point-blank pistol shots.
Oh, I'll lose the arm.
I'm sorry to disagree.
Well, then it's a miracle.
Yeah. Music publishers never die. They just fade away. Oh, here's the gun used on you. It was thrown down.
Yes, that's the gun the maniac terrorized me with. Give it to me. It's evidence for the district attorney.
I'll keep the gun a while.
But...
I'm a licensed detective. This Mervyn Marlowe is a songwriter battling you in the courts?
A songwriter? A song thief?
He didn't write Sugarloaf Mama?
Lies. His claims are lies. Mervyn Marlowe can't even write his own name.
He can't shoot straight. That makes him kind of useless all around. Sampson.
Yes.
A girl, Susan Lane.
Susan Lane, my stenographer?
Your late stenographer, maybe. She's been kidnapped.
Kidnapped? By whom?
Tough.
Hired by Mervyn Marlowe.
What motive would Marlowe have?
To shut her up. To stop her from testifying to the truth when we go to court.
The truth being?
That nobody here read his song manuscript or even opened the envelope.
How big is Marlowe's temptation to murder? Come on, Sampson. Don't shy at boasting.
Sugarloaf Mama is a gold mine. Sales in sheet music alone run over $100,000.
Motive aplenty to keep Blondie from testifying at all costs.
He'll kill Susan. You'll find her dead.
Where do I find Mervyn Marlowe?
In a garret in East Harlem, 3601 First Avenue. A crazy bohemian in a cold-water garret with a piano.
3601 First Avenue. Call yourself an ambulance. Let that wound infect, and you'll be the one-armed wonder of the music publishing business. Before quitting the building, I looked up Lemaire, the janitor. I found him in the basement, washing up.
Welcome to my humble quarters, my boy.
Dry your face. I've got something to discuss.
Proceed.
You clean the offices as well as the halls?
Yes. The mockery of it.
Being able to use your master key as you are, you're no doubt well familiar with the contents of the offices?
I am, after a fashion, that is.
And, after a fashion, also familiar with the contents of desks?
Do I detect an innuendo that I snoop?
You detect.
Base and reprehensible slander, my boy. As of this moment, consider our discussion terminated.
This gun. Have you ever seen it before? You've seen it in Sampson's office, maybe? Okay, so we're going to play close mouth. This your locker? I asked, is this your locker?
It is.
Open it.
Why?
I want to total up the stamps, the scotch, clips, and rubber bands. Your day's haul, man.
You dare accuse me of the pettiest of thievery?
Yeah, I dare. You see, I placed your odd kisser where I'd seen it before, that is.
The south of France, was it?
The Rogues Gallery, it was. Weldon Lemaire, alias the Baron. And what snatching ladies' handbags, if not petty thievery?
Not so loud. I lose face with the building management.
Tell me what I want to know.
Yes. I have seen this precise pistol before.
Where?
In Mr. Sampson's desk drawer. The bottom left drawer, if my memory serves. You've cost me a pretty piece of change.
The blackmail you could have wrung out of Sampson. So it's Sampson's own gun, huh?
The old reprobate shot himself?
The old reprobate sure did. Visiting the rundown garret the songwriter Mervyn Marlowe lived in, I got a smell of trouble even before I asked in.
Who's there?
I didn't need X-ray vision to know a crackpot songwriter on the other side of the door was heeled with a gun.
Who's there?
I want to talk to you, Marlowe.
Door's unlocked. Come in.
Come in, and not hello to a gun. An old familiar situation. I came in, but with a bang. Oh! Marlowe was out cold with his fingers coiled around a gun. A gun I relieved him of. He came to, cursing himself. Stand away from the door the next time you invite a fly into the web, sucker.
Oh, you dirty
You won't make out. When you find it monotonous, tell me. Sampson used his own gun on himself.
You know that?
I don't go for a gag as obvious as Sampson's frame. Now get up, behave, and fill in the facts.
Sampson asked me to call on him for a talk. We had an argument. Sampson said if I didn't drop my lawsuit, he'd scandalize me as a mad dog murderer. I socked him one on the jaw, and Sampson grabbed a gun out of a desk drawer.
And?
He said he'd frame me if I didn't sign papers swearing my claims to Sugarloaf Mama were a fraud. He said he'd swear the gun was mine and that I'd come in to kill him, that he'd overpowered me and seized the gun after I'd fired at him. When I ran out, Sampson fired 2 shots, not at me.
At himself. He gave himself a flesh wound.
That's Sampson all over. Anything for a buck.
$100,000.
Money belonging to me. He stole my song.
You'll have your day in court.
Yeah, with Sampson's lying stenographer perjuring herself with a boss.
Now that we're down to her, where is she?
Where is she? What are you talking?
Susan Lane was kidnapped.
Now what frame up?
You and Sampson are the interested parties. If she was for Sampson, she was against you.
So?
So only you'd have a motive in shutting off her testimony, it would appear. If you arranged the snatch, Marlowe, you're a sucker. Get out from under while you can.
Ring off. I had nothing to do with it.
How about an attempt on her life on the docks?
Nope.
You're incapable of it?
I'm capable of it, but I didn't do it.
You own a hat?
Sure, why?
Get it. I'm taking you to headquarters.
What for?
You'll only land on the floor again. To protect you against yourself. That wild gleam in your eye belongs under temporary lock and key.
I spent years writing a song, picking my brains, days, nights, starving in this filthy, infested hole, so that swindler Sampson...
That's just what I mean. The Fahrenheit you're cooking at, you've got to explode. If you're really innocent of anything so far, I want to keep you that way. Walk in front of me. At police headquarters, Lieutenant Trev Rogers had sensational news.
Susan Lane. We think we found her.
Where?
A shack up near Gun Hill Road, overlooking the railroad yard.
But how?
Let's go get her, shall we? I'll tell you how another time.
It was Susan Lane on the attic floor of a seedy-looking frame dwelling, trussed hand and foot and dead to the world.
She's asleep. Here's how we were tipped to her whereabouts.
The telephone?
The receiver's off the hook. The girl squirmed enough to roll against it and knock the receiver off.
The operator became suspicious and called police?
Right.
Help me untie her, Trev.
I've got a pocket knife.
Hey, Susan, wake up. Susan, it's me, Barrie. Oh, she seems dopey.
An overdose of sedatives, I'd say. See how the pupils of her eyes dilate? Somebody figured that sleep, she couldn't make a disturbance.
Where am I?
In the arms of the law, baby.
I've never seen you this romantic, Craig.
I've always had a soft spot for struggling stenographers. Let's all ride downtown now, huh? Riding downtown on the West Side Highway with Trev Rogers thumbing his nose at speed laws, Susan came around to 100% of herself. To lean against me contentedly, purring like a kitten.
I feel so good.
You're making Trav's bachelorhood an awful load to bear.
Hand-holding will only get your palms sweating, Don Juan. Suppose we talk about the case, Craig.
You talk.
Sampson and Marlowe. One of them hired the kidnapper.
What could Sampson's motive be?
The same motive he had in shooting himself. Frame and discredit Marlowe in advance of their trial over that song.
Possibility.
But you don't buy it?
Not right away. Oh, take that exit and pull up to Pier 41.
What for?
It's the pier where the case began. Began for me.
Some clue you missed there?
Reconstruct the crime. Isn't that standard approved routine?
All right, Brain. Pier 41.
Susan.
Yes?
follow me. I'll need your help.
All right.
It began about here. I heard a cry for help. Is this about where you were when a masked somebody threw you into the river?
Yes, I think so.
Good. Now, let's reenact it. Stand facing the river.
Yes.
I'm the masked mister. I steal up behind you, grab a hold. Don't be ticklish. I hoist you into the air, so...
Oh, no.
Craig, do you have to be that realistic?
Yeah, I have to be. How else can I heave a cute little bundle like Susan into the drink?
Craig, you maniac, she can't swim.
Oh, can't she?
But you saved her life in the first place.
Yeah, that's what she wanted me to think. That was the hook, and I swallowed it. She can't swim, huh? Look at that Australian crawl.
She swims like a fish.
Yeah, good old will to self-preservation. I was counting on that to convict her.
What was her game?
Dramatize herself. Big. Make out her life was being attempted. To bleed Samson for a big slice of those song profits. More than she's already got.
Already got.
When she climbs back on the pier, gander at a hunk of so-called Mexican jewelry she's wearing. Appraise the ring at Tiffany's and find out what a bonanza stenography can be for a smart girl.
Samson gave her the ring?
A down payment for her perjury.
But if the blackmail was set up so good, why embellish it with phony attempts on her life? And the kidnapping.
Fear. Marlowe could gun for her, for lying for Samson. Ditto Samson to keep her from telling the truth. The truth being that Marlowe wrote Sugarloaf Mama.
So?
So by making herself a police problem, or my problem, that is, she scared Samson and Marlowe from daring to harm her.
Clever. Oh, here she comes.
Oh, hello, baby.
Oh, that was contemptible of you, Barrie.
A flaw in my character. So sorry. Just by the way, who was the atrocious kidnapper?
Oh, my brother. Why, I'm cold.
Where do you suggest we go?
Your place?
No, it really wouldn't be proper this time. I'd be pinched for sequestering police property. Case solved. Only Trav Rogers didn't let me just walk away from it. At his insistence, I had it dragged down to headquarters to hunt and peck away at a typewriter.
How's your detailed police report coming along, Barrie?
I'll be a month at it the way I type.
Sad.
Why are we so suddenly so clerical?
Regulations. Section 6, paragraph 4, governing confidential operatives, states...
Spare me. But why in such a confounded hurry? Why right away tonight? I've got fight tickets for St. Nick's.
Susan Lane's under arrest. Thanks to you. I can't just book her, not without a precise stipulation of charges.
Then get me a competent typist.
Sorry, they've all gone home. Patience, Barrie. Just put one word after another.
All this for a case I worked without a fee yet.
Oh, by the way.
What?
Speaking of fees, the fact is Miss Lane was sporting enough to worry about that.
Are you kidding?
No, I'm not. She said you were working for her, even though it did boomerang for her. She hates to see you go empty-handed, she says.
Sweet of her.
Isn't it? Lacking funds, she gave you her dearest possession, her finest jewel, this ring.
Hey. Why, Trev, the rock's worth 5 G's if it's a penny.
I'm sure. And now, if you'll hand it back.
Hand it back? What for?
Regulations governing extorted property. The girl, unfortunately, came by the ring dishonorably.
You kill yourself. Good night, folks. See you next week.
You have been listening to William Gargan in another exciting transcribed mystery drama from the adventures of Barrie Craig, confidential investigator. Tonight's story, Song of Death, was written by John Robert. Next week, it's the strange story titled Death of a Private Eye, about which Barrie Craig has this to say.
Next week, I'm hired to help a man pay a visit, but discover instead that my client has a visitor first. That visitor being death. See you next week, folks.
Featured in the role of Susan was Amzie Strickland. Barrie Craig, starring William Gargan, was under the direction of Hyman Brown. This is Don Pardo speaking.
Now enjoy Meredith Wilson's Music Room on NBC.
Welcome back. This was a nice episode with a lot of twists and no corpses. I loved it when Barrie requested where he would get hit on the side of the head. And of course there was the part with him having to do paperwork. That's the kind of thing that most radio private eyes, even acting as de facto police, never have to do. Well, we turn now to some listener comment and feedback, and we got a nice review on our app in the iTunes store. PR Oak writes, "This app is well worth the money. A small ticket price in return for a whole lot of entertainment. If you like old radio shows, this is the app for you." Well, thank you. I appreciate that review. And speaking of our app, that's a good segue there. For those of you who have the app or also our premium site, our third and final app extra of the month is an episode of a show that was called The Good News of 1940. It was one of the great entertainment variety shows of the era, and it features William Gargan in a guest starring role. And if you'd like the app, it's available in the iTunes, Amazon, and Android store for $1.99. And you can also get access to our apps if you don't have an Android or iPhone through our premium subscription, leaving a tip of $7 or more at greatdetectives.net, and that actually gives you access to the extras for both the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio and the Old Time Dragnet show. So check that out. All right, well, that will do it for this week. We'll be back tomorrow with Rogues Gallery. Well, we're going to take a listen to today's episode of Rogues Gallery in just a second. But before we get started with that, I do want to encourage you to try Audible. If you don't have time to read, or you're having difficulty reading, Audible is a great service. It brings you a world of books at an affordable way. With Audible, you get one audiobook a month. You get a audio subscription to your choice of either the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal, and you also receive a 30% discount on other audio titles that you may want to get. You can try Audible out for free. Get a free audiobook. Go to audibletrial.com/greatdetectives. That's audibletrial.com/greatdetectives. Well, we once again skip a few episodes here with lost episodes. Between the last episode we played was from February 21st of 1946, and there were 7 episodes in between that. There was the alias Harold Holloway. There was a Toddle Unknown. There's The Cat Dies Once, A Date with Tangerine, Callahan's Hat. And this episode we played, actually, we're going to play today, was actually supposed to air the previous week, but it was postponed for an unknown reason, but on April 4th. So this is from April 11th of 1946, and the title is The Message. I should let you know in advance, the audio quality is a little spotty, and there's about 20 or 30 seconds of audio missing from the middle between the commercial and Rogue returning. But other than that, the story is complete. Just beware of a few little weak spots in the recording. But with that said, here now is Rogues Gallery and The Message.
The F.W. Fitch Company, makers of Fitch's saponified coconut oil shampoo and Fitch's shaving creams, presents Dick Powell as Private Investigator Richard Rogue in Rogue's Gallery.
Rogue speaking. As I walked down the corridor of the death house, the butterflies in my stomach were doing a soft shoe dance to the beat of a dirge. In a half hour, Mike Royal, the man I was about to see, would die of sitting in a chair. An occupational disease common to the business of murdering. This was not my idea of a pleasant way to start an evening, but that's the way it was. I was there by special request of the condemned man, and completely in the dark as to why. When the guard and I reached the cage, Mike Royal was standing there with his face squeezed into the bars. Already they had slit his trouser leg and shaved his head, so 50,000 volts could enter quickly, without knocking.
Here we are, Rogue.
Thanks, Ensign. Hello, Mike.
Oh, thank God you're here, Rogue. I didn't know if they'd let you come.
I got here as fast as I could.
Go on in, Rogue. But you've only got 5 minutes. Orders.
Okay, that's all we need. Well, Mike?
Has he gone? Listen, Rogue. You've got to help me.
Now, Mike, your lawyer's throwing the book at them. Every appeal's been turned down. What can I do for you?
I'm not talking about something for me. I want you to help somebody else.
Who?
My kid.
Didn't know you had a kid, Mike.
Yeah, a girl. Florence. She's 14. In the parochial school at Arlington. Father Shea knows. You must help me get some money for her, Rogue.
Well, sure, Mike, sure. The press boys will chip in. We'll get up a little benefit.
You'll get up nothing. I don't want a handout.
But, Mike...
Listen. I only have a minute left. Now, I want you to get the reward money and split it with her. 10 grand for her and 5 for you, huh?
Oh, save your breath, Mike. The insurance company isn't paying $15,000 for your pals, even if you do turn them in. They'll only pay for the return of the stones.
I'm talking about the stones. I wouldn't sing on my pals. You know that, and they know it. But what they don't know is where the stones are. And I do, and I'm going to tell you.
Why not tell the cops?
Because I want her to get the money, you hear? I've never done anything for her all the time that I was alive. And now that I'm as good as dead, I can. You hear?
Yes, Mike.
I killed a man, and I'm ready to burn for it. Well, that's okay. But wherever I'm going and whoever I have to answer to, I can face it better if I check out doing something decent. And you're the only one who can help me, Rogan. Well, you've just got to give me a break.
Okay, Mike, okay. I'll do what I can. Not for you now, but for your kid. Where do I get the stones?
An angel will hand them to you.
Now come back to Earth, will you, Mike? Where do I get the stones?
An angel will hand them to you.
An angel, huh? I see. Yeah, I get it.
That's all I can tell you, Rogue. That's all I can tell you.
Okay, Mike. Anything you say.
Time's up, Rogue.
Right, Hanson.
Promise me you'll do it, Rogue.
Sure I will, Mike. Sure I will. Anything you say.
Yeah. And split it 10 and 5, huh?
Sure. Anything you say.
Yeah. Rogue.
Yeah?
So long, fella.
So long, Mike.
That was very nice of you, Mr. Rogue.
Oh, Father Shea. I didn't see you.
I just couldn't help hearing you promise to do something for Mike. I don't know what it is, but I can see your heart's in the right place.
Father, you haven't been worrying about me.
I confess I was beginning to. You know, you've been pretty close to the line of the law.
Always just inside, Father. I think you can stop worrying.
Perhaps I will. Granting a dying man's last wish is a good sign. A very good sign.
Well, the least I could do was say I would.
Say you would? You mean you're not going to?
I would if I could, Father, but I'm no crystal ball. I can't read his mind. Mike's got angels and his daughter and $15,000 all mixed up in his mind like farmer's salad.
Perhaps I can find out what he means and tell you.
No, Father. Mike told me to go see an angel. But I'm not quite ready to meet the angels yet. Father Shea turned and walked back to Mike's cell. Then Hanson, the guard, joined me, and we started down the corridor.
Our Father,
who art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come.
Thy will be done.
I could hear Father Shea and Mike praying together. Oh, I wished I could help Mike's kid. But I couldn't see myself getting mixed up in this thing, even if it did have a payoff. No, sir. I couldn't see it. The prison gates clanged behind me, and I grabbed a cab. Told the driver where to go and leaned back with my thoughts. I thought of 4 big shining diamonds. I thought of a $15,000 reward, and of a little girl in parochial school, and of her father, who had made a death house will and testament naming me executor. And I thought of Father Shea's eyes when he thought I was backing out on my promise, and that one screwy line of Mike's, "An angel will hand them to you." But anyway I looked at it, all it added up to was a headache. By the time I got home, I was plenty tired. Maybe in the morning it would make sense. What I needed now was sleep. I went up to my apartment, walked in, and speaking of angels, there in my favorite armchair sat what appeared to be at least a very reasonable facsimile. A dark-eyed, red-headed dame who smiled and said,
"Hello. The manager let me in. I said I was an old friend. You're not seeing things."
That's what you think. Who poured you into that gown?
Won't you come in? I won't bite you.
Oh, thanks. I'm a barking dog myself.
Won't you sit down?
Thank you. Oh, here's your purse.
Thank you.
I make it a point never to sit on ladies' purses, especially when there's a gun in them. Might go off. All right, baby, what is this?
We'll continue our story in just a moment. But first, here's something a woman told us the other day.
I like Fitch's saponified coconut oil shampoo for a special reason. And that is that it always leaves my hair smelling so fragrant and clean.
Yes, lady, that is important, more than most people realize. For it's a fact, your scalp perspires too, and the hair collects and holds odors, dust, and dirt. But there's no need to risk offending with scalp odor when regular use of Fitch's saponified coconut oil shampoo will keep your hair fresh and clean. This clear, golden liquid shampoo makes mountains of delicately fragrant lather that quickly washes away every bit of dust, dirt, and scalp odor. Your hair is left smelling fresh, sweet, and clean. And it will be radiantly lustrous, too, for Fitch's saponified shampoo contains a special patented rinsing agent. This rinsing agent ensures that no dull, soapy film will be left to mar the luster of your sparkling, clean hair. Ask for a bottle of Fitch's saponified shampoo at your drug or toilet goods counter, or have a professional application at your beauty shop. Now back to Dick Powell as Private Investigator Richard Rogue in Rogue's Gallery.
I'm not the type who expects handouts from angels, so when Mike Royal told me, just before he was executed, that an angel would hand me the Maris diamonds, I was as groggy as a New Year's morning. But when I reached my apartment, there sat something that looked very much like an angel, until I found a gun in her purse.
You're very clever, aren't you?
Well, the doctors at Yale and Harvard are both bidding for my head when I die. I might give one to each. Anything else you'd like to know?
Yes. What did Mike Royal tell you?
Mike Royal?
I didn't come here to play games.
Oh. What a pity.
What did he tell you?
Now listen, baby. I don't know who you are, what you want, but I haven't got it. You're poison, and I don't want any part of you. Now beat it before my fists get out of control. And take your water gun with you. as soon as I empty the water. Here you are. Now crawl back under your rock.
Now, listen. Mike Royal told you something. And you're in this whether you like it or not. I don't work alone, and my friends play rough.
Baby, I don't care how rough your friends play.
We knew Mike would talk before he died. We tailed every visitor and tapped his lawyer's phone. We knew when he sent for you. You were the last guy to see Mike alive, and we also knew you wouldn't tell the cops. Because you love a greenback more than anything in the world.
That's right. I love greenbacks. 15,000 of them.
15,000?
For the arrest of the Maris vault breakers and killers of the guard, and for the return of aforementioned jewelry.
It wouldn't be easy to find those persons.
For 15 grand, I'll work hard.
So that's it. Little Boy Scout catches the gang, turns in the stones, and collects the merit badge.
And 15,000.
The stone's worth $500,000 that you can turn in now for 100,000 cash. Is that smart? Play along and we'll be rich.
We? Who's we?
You and me. Don't you think we could get along?
Well, I shouldn't be surprised. What about the rest? Your friends?
They're on their own. I said you and me. We could go away somewhere together. Think of it, Rogue. $100,000.
Well, that's a lot of moves.
You can have anything you want, Rogue. Anything you want. Just you and me all the way. So what do you say?
I'm hanging on the ropes, baby. Keep punching.
Look outside. It's snowing. It's cold. But in Florida, it's warm and Bermuda all year round.
It's getting warmer right here.
What did Mike tell you?
How do I know you're on the level?
Here's a down payment.
Baby. Then it hit me. Oh. The guy must have flown out of the closet like a moth. A two-legged moth. Swinging a sap that caught me over the right ear. Every steeple in the world began chiming 9 o'clock. The hands of one big clock kept whirling around like a propeller, with me stuck like a hunk of gum on the end of the minute hand. Then the clock fell over on its back. I was still whirling, but now the hands of the clock were a merry-go-round, faster and faster and faster. There I was, on Cloud 8. My home away from home, where my old friend, my alter ego, Ugor, was waiting for me.
Hello, Rogie. Say, where have you been for the last couple of weeks?
Hello, Ugor. Say, Ugor, do you know any angels?
What's the matter, Rogie? Don't you like the company you've been keeping?
An angel with a handful of diamonds?
Hey, Rogie, you'd better get back downstairs. You're in trouble.
But what did Mike mean? I can't figure it out.
Oh, use your head, Rogie.
No, I did. For a baseball. Somebody batted it for the circuit. That's why I'm here.
Go on back, Rogie. All they want is what you know. Tell them, Rogie. It won't mean any more to them than it does to you.
But Ugor...
Over this side you go, Rogie.
So long, Ugor.
So long, Rogie.
Come on, Rogue. What'd he tell you? Come on or I'll beat it out of you.
Did you see Mike Royal tonight?
Yes, I saw him.
Did he say anything about the jewels? Did he say they were in a vault? Did he say they were in a safety deposit box? Did he say he gave them to a fence? Who did he say you'd get them from?
From an angel.
What?
An angel.
Nuts. All he gives us is double talk. I'll slap it out of him if I have to slap his head off.
Well, maybe he really doesn't know.
He knows plenty. He's seen us, hasn't he?
Wait a minute. Listen, Rogue. I'm going to give you one chance more. Who did Mike say would give you the jewels?
An angel.
No, Joe, take care of him. Almost 10. I've got a dance at the club in 20 minutes. I don't want them to think there's anything wrong. Keep him here. I'll be back.
Okay, leave him to me.
Just be careful, Joe.
And now, brother, I don't want to hear no more talk about angels.
Well, then stop asking.
I'll keep asking till I get a straight answer. No more funny talk. What did Mike tell you?
Here we go again.
Sure we do. Until you talk. I'm going to ask you just 10 questions. One with each knuckle.
What did Mike tell you? What did Mike tell you? Come on, talk!
He hit me with everything he had. I went sailing across the room, 3 sheets in the wind. I hit the wall and fell to my knees, grabbing at the telephone table for support, and then the phone fell off the cradle.
Hang up that phone.
And I did. Hung it right on his head.
No!
He went down like the 29 stock market. And now something besides Joe's fist was connecting in my head. Madge said she had to dance at a club. Mike Royal used to hang around the Cherub Club. The Cherub Club. It was a shot in the dark, but I couldn't stop now. I looked at Joe sleeping on the floor. His return train from the land of dreams wouldn't leave for at least an hour. So I went out for the Cherub Club. Mike Royal had tagged me, and I guess I was it. Whether I wanted to play or not.
Throw him again, Mr. Rogue.
Yeah, throw him again.
Pause your point again. You're kind of fond of that number, ain't you?
Yeah, I don't know why.
Six. Pick him up, Mr. Rogue.
Huh? Oh, yeah.
Say, why don't you keep your mind on this game? Gonna watch the floor show? Watch the floor show. Gonna play dice? Play dice.
I'm sorry, Sam. I'm just looking the club over.
Looking it over? Thinking of buying in or something?
No, it's just that I see a lot of changes since I was here last. All for the worse, too.
Yeah. Nobody to look after the place since Mike Royal got in trouble and left. Poor Mike.
Hey, Mike did hang around here a lot, didn't he, huh?
Sure. He was general handyman. Dolled the place up. Fixed props for the gals on the line. Mike was always puttering around. Busy little man.
Yeah, too busy.
Come on, Mr. Rhodes. Throw the dice. Your point's 4. 7 out. Want to go again?
No, just a minute, Sam. Say, you got a dancing doll here who answers to the name of Madge?
Madge? Sure. She's out on the floor now.
In that line?
Second from the end.
Oh. In the devil costume, you mean, with the pitchfork?
No, that's Lil. Madge is on the other side. The angel with the wings and the crown.
Angel? Oh.
Yeah. They haven't changed that hungry number for 3 months. Since before Mike left. I can't look at it anymore.
Angel, huh? Hey, Sam. Sam, I got $10 that says you can't tell me how to get backstage.
I'll take that bet.
Huh? Oh. Hello, Joe. I thought I left you in dreamland.
I'm a light sleeper. What are you doing here?
Playing tiddlywinks.
What are you doing here?
What does it look like? Playing dice, stupid.
Don't get funny.
Joe, for Pete's sake, don't start anything here. You know the boss don't like it.
Stay out of this, Sam. Okay, Rogue, you don't want to talk? You can walk.
Where to?
You wanted to go backstage. Okay, this gun will show you the way.
We'll return to Rogue's Gallery in a moment. But now, a word to the men. Your face is something that accompanies you wherever you go. So every man wants a face that's smooth-shaven, without nicks and scars. If you're the type whose super-sensitive skin makes shaving a chore, try Fitch's No Brush Shaving Cream next time. It has a special skin conditioning action.
When it turned out Madge really was one, with wings and crown and all, a gun poked me in the stomach. I looked up and saw Joe on the other end of it.
Seems my phone call to his skull must have been a bum connection. Because there he was, walking around again, friendly as a toothache. He took me to a back office and shoved me in a chair.
No use looking around, Rogue. There ain't no phone in this place. For no double cross between you two. I'm staying here. If you're going to talk, talk.
I don't talk with a gun crowding my tonsils. Tell this bug to put it away.
Put it away, Joe.
Now put a slug into him.
Put it away, I said. All right, Rogue. Where are we going to get the diamonds?
From an angel.
Angels again.
You know what I mean, don't you, Angel?
No.
I'm telling you, that's all I know.
All right, Joe. Do it your way, but not with the gun. Slug him. We'll drag him out to the car like we were walking a drunk. Then we'll finish him.
Wait. Can't we,
Go ahead. I got him covered.
Look, I'm telling you the truth.
All right, George Washington. There's a little phone bill I owe you.
No, wait. Joe, there are the diamonds.
What?
There they are. Madge is wearing them.
What are you talking about?
Mike told me an angel would hand them to me. Madge is the angel, Joe. Look at the way she's dressed. Those are the jewels in her crown. 4 of them, see?
You're crazy. These jewels are paste.
No, they're not. Listen, Joe. Mike worked here, didn't he? Gave the girls their props. They've been doing this number at the club since before Mike was put away. There were 4 stones, weren't there? And there are 4 in that crown. Look at those stones, Joe. They're real.
Madge, give me that crown.
Don't fall for that, Joe. Finish him off.
Didn't I tell you before an angel had them?
Yeah, you said it before.
You dim boob. Can't you see he's stalling?
She knows it's true, Joe. She's going to try to pull a double cross.
Give me that crown.
Wait a minute, Joe.
Don't let her get out of this room with those stones, Joe. She'll double cross us both.
Cut it out, Rogue. You're getting Joe excited. He doesn't know what he's doing half the time anyway.
Give me that crown.
Listen to me. I'm still running the show, and you're going to take my orders. You'd have burned with Mike tonight if it weren't for me.
Shut up.
You just watch this monkey until I get back. Keep your gun on him.
You ain't leaving this room with that crown.
Don't be nuts.
Madge.
Let go of me. Look out, Joe!
Too late, baby. I've got it. Hey, you're breaking my arm.
I will if you don't drop that gun.
Madge, get this guy off me.
Okay, let go of him, Rogue.
Oh, no, you don't, baby. Oh, claws, huh?
Okay, break it up. Break it up. I've got you covered, all of you. Hey, cops.
Urban. Urban. Where did you come from?
Well, the switchboard girl at your hotel called me when you didn't answer after your phone fell off the hook. I got to your room in time to see this lug stagger out, and I tailed him here. But I didn't know where you were until I heard the scuffle. Now, what the devil is going on anyway?
Well, I'll explain in a minute, Urban. First, there's a little unfinished business to attend to.
Yeah, what's that?
Just this. Little Joey boy's been asking for that all night. I'm sorry I can't oblige you too, Madge, but I'm a gentleman. Darn it.
Hey, Rogue, what gives?
Well, Urban, you'll probably be pleased to know that my little playmates here are the Marist jewel thieves.
Yeah?
Yeah. Now, Madge, if you'll just give the nice man the crown you're wearing.
No, you don't.
Listen, baby. I could forget about being a gentleman very easily. Give it to him.
Here you
That's better.
Okay, O'Brien, take these 2 down and book them on suspicion.
Come on, you 2.
Now, Rogie, what's this crown business?
That, my friend, is a death house legacy. A 10-grand windfall to a skinny little kid.
Huh?
Mike Royal knew where the Marist jewels were. He wanted to tell me so I could turn them in and split the reward with his kid. But he knew his pals would be laying for me, and he knew they'd try to beat out of me whatever he told me. But what I didn't know, I couldn't tell. Under fists or bullets.
So?
So, all he told me was that an angel would hand them to me. He hoped they wouldn't be able to figure it out, and I would.
And you did?
I certainly did. As usual, I might say. And there are the jewels in that crown.
In this crown? Rogue, are you kidding? These are paste. 10-cent store stuff. I know diamonds when I see them.
Oh, let's not go through that again. Those are diamonds.
Yeah? Suppose I pound them a little with my gun. If they're diamonds, it won't hurt them.
Go ahead.
Look. That's one. There's the second one, Rogie.
Oh, brother.
Well, shall I go on, Rogie, or do we just go home?
You win, Urban. Let's get out of here. The Cherub Club. Well, I'm glad to see the outside of this place.
The Maris jewels. Oh, brother, telling me about diamonds.
Thanks for the lumps, lady.
Hey, Rogie, who you talking to?
The angel on that sign up there. That sign... Hey, Urban. You say you know costume jewelry when you see it?
A mile away.
Ah, well, take a look at that sign up there. See the stars in that angel's hand? See how bright they are? Now, what would you say they were?
4 glitter stones.
From the 5 and 10?
From the 5 and 10.
Ah, get yourself a ladder, Urban. Climb it and take the Maris jewels out of that angel's hand. Well, I knew it all the time. I was kidding about the crown. You see, Mike didn't tell me an angel would give them to me. He said an angel would hand them to me. Smart, wasn't I? Yes, I found the jewels all right. Mike Royal, the club handyman, had put them in the angel's hand when he knew the police were closing in. And Mike's daughter in the parochial school got the $10 grand all right. And Joe and Madge got theirs too, life. And me? Well, I took my $5 grand and had a wonderful time. Went right back to the Galloping Dominoes at the Cherub Club. Tried all night long, but I never did make my point. You know, that 4 is hard to make, even the easy way. You know what I mean? This is Dick Powell again, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you liked our story tonight. Thanks for listening. And now, once again, here's Jim Doyle.
Be with us again at the same time next week. And be sure to see Dick Powell in his latest RKO picture, Cornered, at your local theater. Remember, tune in next Thursday, same time, same station, when you will again hear Dick Powell as Private Investigator Richard Rogue in Rogue's Gallery. Remember, if dandruff is your problem, ask for Fitch's Dandruff Remover Shampoo. It's the only shampoo made whose guarantee to remove dandruff is backed by one of the world's largest insurance firms. No other shampoo can make this statement. Ask for Fitch's Dandruff Remover Shampoo at your drug or toilet goods counter, beauty or barber shop. Fitch is spelled F-I-T-C-H.
Welcome back. And once again, Rogue gambles away significant earnings. I've never seen a radio detective go through money like this. But at least he got the $5,000 to the daughter, which was very sporting and decent of him. And, you know, when you miss as many episodes as we do, you kind of get left out on some of this. Because YouGore's like, where have you been the last couple of weeks? Well, we just don't have the recordings to know what happened in those. And Gerald Moore continues to impress me as the designated villain. And he has played all sorts, from a sophisticated lawyer to this one, an easily confused thug. So definitely a bit of a showcase for Gerald Moore, better known for his role as Philip Marlowe. Well, we turn now to comments from Patrick, who says, Adam, thank you so much for your efforts in maintaining all of your podcast websites, apps, and such. I've recently stumbled on your podcast, and they have provided me with hours of enjoyment. I particularly like Rogue's Gallery. One of my favorite lines came from the episode Fortune and Furs, where Rogue refers to being as broke as a New Year's resolution. Well, thanks. And, we played Pat Novak for Hire, which was so popular with our listeners back when we did it. But Richard Rogue was the original of that. Snappy line of patter from the hard-boiled radio eye. But he goes on to say, and I look forward to hearing more as you post. I've purchased the app for my iPhone and been listening daily while I draw and paint. I like your idea about going listener-supported and would love to contribute in some way, although, incidentally, I find myself to be as broke as a New Year's resolution, not once a year, but pretty much year-round. Thanks again, and regards, Patrick. Thanks a lot, Patrick. Appreciate your feedback. And, of course, I understand that if we do try the listener-supported effort, not every listener is going to be able to participate, but that's fine. It definitely understood, particularly in this tight economy we're in. Well, we have a question from Nathan in Houston who says, this summer I discovered both Dragnet and the Great Detectives podcast, and I love them both. They really helped me survive my tedious summer job of stamping new books at the library. Old-time radio is definitely good for the tedious work, where your mind wants to wander off someplace because your body knows exactly what to do. Definitely makes a great diversion. He goes on to say, you've probably gotten this question like 1 billion times already. Sorry, I knew, but can you tell me about the theme song for the Great Detectives podcast? I'm crazy about it and would like to have the full song. Who's the artist? And what is the song called? Thanks for all the great episodes. Well, Nathan, as best we can tell, the song was recorded by Basil Adlam, who was a famous orchestra leader at the time. But as to the origin of it, I'm not certain. It could be a classical piece of some sort. A few weeks back, I answered the question of where the song at the end of the Abbots came, but that just was because I'd happened to hear it on the Railroad Hour. If any of you are experts and know what that movement is, because we've received that question a few times, I would love to hear from you at box13@greatdetectives.net, because I'm not certain. But thanks for the question and for the comments, and that'll actually do it for this week. We will be back on Wednesday with Let George Do It, and next week we'll pay another visit to Rogue's Gallery. Well, before we do get started, I do want to remind you Tales of the Dim Night is available. It's by my wife and myself. It's a great superhero comedy. We pay homage to a lot of the great Golden Age superheroes. We poke fun and parody quite a few. We do Underdog. We do 1960s Batman, and there's a great family story besides. So be sure to pick up a copy of Tales of the Dim Night, dimnight.com, and it's only $2.99 now as an ebook. So remember, go to dimnight.com. But now it's time for today's episode of Let George Do It, Chair of the Humanities.
Personal notice, changes my stock and trade. If the job's too tough for you to handle, you got a job for me, George Valentine. Write full details.
Standard Oil Company of California, on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West, invites you to Let George Do It. The Chair of Humanities, another adventure of George Valentine.
Dear Mr. Valentine, you must... Hello, can you hear me?
Of course. Go on, Mr. Valentine.
Dear Mr. Valentine, you must telephone me at once at our home on Faculty Road, Durley College.
Yes. Yes, that's right.
Well, then you are Mrs. Gloria Cable.
My husband is Professor Cable, Edward M. Cable. He has the chair of humanities here at the college. He's very well known.
Oh, I see. Chair of Humanities. But then you did write this letter to me, Mrs. Cable.
Yes. Yes, that's right.
And you closed with a P.S. saying that it was extremely urgent.
Oh, yes.
Well, why? What is it? Well, here I am. I'm phoning.
I remember things so clearly that happened 10 years ago. A woman doesn't always do things she's proud of, or Well, if she's cursed with being attractive like they say I am, I mean...
Mrs. Cable...
I'm sorry, Mr. Valentine. This has nothing to do with it, with anything. I'm just talking. I'm sorry. Thank you for telephoning. It's nothing.
Mrs. Cable, is what you're trying to say that you wanted me urgently because there's nothing wrong?
What? Yes, that's it. Thank you for calling. There's absolutely nothing wrong.
Come again, all of you. Now, Miss Brooks, Mr. Valentine, I'm so sorry if it put you out driving all the way up here.
No, Professor Cable, not at all.
All these young people, Monday afternoon tea, poor students with problems, are obligated to endure the professor's hospitality.
Sounded to me like they loved it.
But you're worried about my wife, you say?
No, I didn't say that. It was just that her telephone call...
She sounded so strange, and yet she wanted it.
Is your wife, ill, Professor?
I beg your pardon.
Well, I mean, the way she talked...
I probably know more about this sort of thing than you do, Mr. Valentine.
Well, of course, only what sort of thing?
Well, really, my wife... There, I mustn't interfere, must I? It's her affair, between you and her. You'll see her. Come along. Perhaps the young people have left a bit of cake or tea, or maybe you'd like something stronger. I have my own imported scotch, you know.
No, thanks, not just now. Professor, we find you're rather famous. Seems you have quite a reputation for helping people.
Nonsense. A man does what he... My wife is very beautiful, you know. The most beautiful woman in the world. Oh, I'm very sorry. Jessie.
Excuse me.
Wait a minute, Jessie.
Just cleaning up, that's all. Just taking the dishes out.
No, wait. This is Jessie, my wife's sister.
How do you do? How do you do?
Jessie's my guardian angel. Gloria's never been too strong, you know. But Jessie makes up for everything, don't you? And besides, she's the most magnificent cook in the world.
There's more cake if you want some, but it isn't as light as it should be. Gloria's upstairs packing, I think.
No. Ask her to come down, will you? And Jessie, beauty is as beauty does, isn't it?
Thank you. Excuse me.
Your wife is upstairs packing, Professor?
Poor Jessie. Sure you won't join me?
No, none for me either. Why do you say that? Poor Jessie.
Oh, she has the misfortune of being a worshipper of me, for one thing. But I suppose tending me at least keeps her busy. I've tried to help Jessie. Make her understand about her own shyness, ugliness, if you insist. Maybe it's just that romance has missed her. I don't know. Never done anything but work here all alone.
Excuse me, Professor, but I'm still curious about something else. Jessie said your wife was packing.
Valentine, my wife. I've done everything possible, everything for years. Money, time, attention. I'm afraid I acted like a schoolboy just now, being offended when you asked if my wife were ill. Why do I pretend? Yes, she's upstairs packing now. The doctor is already a little late.
The doctor?
Yes. You see, against my better judgment, today is the day that he's coming to take her away, as the saying goes, to a place where she can get some mental rest.
Mr. Valentine, don't apologize. I'm so sorry I bothered you, that's all.
Darling, you mentioned to him on the telephone something about 10 years ago.
I know. I can remember all that. And I can explain to you quite simply.
Well, I really don't think it's any of our business, Mrs. Cable.
No, of course not. Darling...
But that's what I was thinking about at the time. And now today when I'm leaving my husband, I'm just going away and leaving.
Darling, you're not deserting anyone, not failing anyone.
I am. You know I am. Just like I did 10 years ago.
You didn't. You've never failed me.
Oh, you're just too nice to admit it. Too wonderful yourself to ever stop forgiving. I wonder if Mary Magdalene ever failed anyone. Oh, get out of here. Get out of here, all of you.
I'm afraid this is none of our business, Professor, so goodbye.
Mr. Valentine, it is your business. I was just as curious as you as to why she wrote you. Her memory of the present keeps slipping, I know. But she loves me a great deal. And I thought perhaps yesterday she had seen the cat die.
The what?
Yes, the cat. Oh, I wasn't even sure of it then. But I thought perhaps she was worried about me, because I am sure of it now. And Mr. Valentine, it's I who need your help. Yes, for the first time in my life, I need someone to turn to.
Then stop going around in circles, will you? What is it?
I'm trying to get used to the idea that I'm actually in danger. Mr. Valentine, I'm trying to face the fact that someone is trying to murder me.
Professor, how are you today?
Oh, what in the name?
Jessie said that I could see you now. Excuse me, sir. I didn't know you weren't alone.
You said show him in, Edward, the minute he came in. I told you there'd be people here.
I didn't mean to intrude, Professor. I'll be back.
No. You're here now. This is Bill Rossiter.
Hello.
How do you do?
How do you do? It's a pleasure.
Now, what is it, Bill? Let's get it over with. More trouble?
Huh? Well, no, it's just that it's the first of the month, that's all. Oh, well, why don't I come back?
Oh, of course. I'm sorry. Don't be so embarrassed, Miss Brooks and Mr. Valentine. Understand these things.
I didn't have an
Relax,
envelope.
Bill. Here, I just mixed it. Have a drink. Won't you?
A drink?
Go on. One won't hurt you.
Well, I don't normally. Professor, here.
What's this? Oh, the money. Of course, $25. Well, you could have waited if it inconvenienced you, Bill.
No. I think I would like a drink, if you don't mind. Thank you. I get... Cheers, Mr. Valentine.
Put that down, Bill Rossiter. Put that down.
Jessie, I spilled it. I'm so sorry. Here,
You know you can't touch that stuff. Get out of here.
I'll clean it up, Jessie. Just get me right.
I said get out of here, you weak-willed, sniveling...
All right, Jessie. I'm going.
I thought he'd have the strength to turn it down, Jessie.
I know, Edward. So did I. Excuse me, all of you.
I'm afraid I'm the one who's embarrassed now.
Poor Jessie. I think she loved that man once.
Liquor, his trouble?
It was embezzlement, originally. 6 or 7 years ago. Worked in the treasurer's office. Had quite a future in finance.
But the $25.
He might have gone to prison if anyone had ever found out. It's repayment. That's all, Miss Brooks. I tried to help him out. I kept it a secret. Gave him the cash to cover up his mistakes. But you know, it's a strange thing about a person who is...
It's a strange thing about a lot of the world, Professor. Everybody's got troubles. But let's stick to yours.
Is that most important? Worrying about yourself?
Never mind the philosophy, just the facts. About murder.
The cat. Yes. I enjoy living well. For instance, here in my study, I have my own little larder, which no one else touches, though everyone knows about it. Here's salted beef jerky to munch on. The cat ate a piece of it yesterday and died.
Oh. Let me see. Might be rotten.
Salted? No. Besides, there's a peculiar odor. I noticed the same odor in some brandy this morning. Didn't touch it, of course.
You think poison? But that whiskey you just now offered...
Oh, I bought the scotch myself this morning. Forewarned is forearmed. But there's a special cheese here which I love, imported. Same peculiar odor. Same, whatever it is, Mr. Valentine. So, what do you think? Or do you think that perhaps in the midst of all these peculiar people, I have become the most peculiar of all? That my imagination...
I'm not going to waste any more time in thinking, Professor Cable. I'm going to find out. Come on, Brooksy, let's go.
About 2 cc's mixed in with the salt there on the jerky, Mr. Valentine. You can see here where I precipitated it.
Here's another report from the laboratory, George. Chemical analysis of brandy shows 3 or 4 cc's of a cyanic...
Oh, yes, Mr. Valentine, the same thing in this report. Another cc and a half of the same stuff in the cheese. And it's deadly, all right, one of the strongest. Poison, that's what it is, poison.
Captain. It's dark. You can park on the side.
I know. I've bossed the campus police for 25 years. I ought to know where Professor Cable lives.
Do you know him yourself, Captain Martinson?
Oh, sure. I can't imagine who'd want to be poisoning a good-hearted guy like him.
Never mind worrying about that now. All I want to do is search the house.
A shot!
Come on.
Here in this room, I think.
Hey, wait. Listen. Someone trying to get out. Yeah, it's locked.
We can get in through the bathroom, around the end of the hall.
Yeah, here we are. In here. There's the French door left open.
The gun?
Yeah.
Isn't that a gun there in the moonlight?
Sure. Somebody threw it down when they ran out the French door. Now, the lights must be someplace.
By the door that was locked. Over here. He's still alive, still trying to unlock it.
George.
Yeah. And it's not the professor. And I'm afraid she's dead.
It's Jessie. She's the one who was shot. It's poor Jessie.
We'll return to tonight's adventure of George Valentine in just a moment. Mr. Jones is a wise man. He owns a car which he uses most of the year for short cross-town trips. His wife sometimes uses the car to do the family shopping. So why is Mr. Jones wise? Because he knows that kind of driving is tough on car engines. Short trips prevent an engine from warming up. And every time the ignition is turned off, acid-laden moisture can cause corrosive rust in the cylinders. That's why city motorists everywhere in the West will tell you more people prefer RPM motor oil than any other brand. And the reason RPM is first choice where driving's toughest is because it's compounded to adhere to all interior engine parts at all times. Even if you left your car standing idle for weeks, corrosive rust couldn't get started. RPM is further compounded to stop oxidation, prevent carbon and lacquer formation. In fact, it's the best engine insurance you can buy. Ask tomorrow for the oil that's first choice where driving's toughest. Ask for RPM at standard stations and independent Chevron gas stations, where they say and mean, we take better care of your car. Back to tonight's adventure of George Valentine. Professor Edward M. Cable occupies the chair of Humanities at Durley College. Not exactly the kind of person you'd expect to be tapped for membership among the dead, even though his private larder was so carefully poisoned. But it wasn't poison that killed anyone. It wasn't the professor who died. No, it was poor Jessie, the ugly, hard-working sister-in-law that you, George Valentine, found dying, shot to death.
George?
Hello, Angel.
What did the police captain have to say, Mr. Valentine?
Oh, he's gone downtown to take the body down, pictures and so on. But he'll be back pretty soon.
Anything new?
No. Oh, they located where the poison came from, though. That cyanic, whatever it was, 15 cc's were apparently stolen from one of the science supply shops the other night, Professor.
From right on the campus. Well, I suppose nearly everyone around must know about those shops. They supply the laboratories.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Could have been anybody. The stuff was clearly labeled, so it wouldn't even take an expert.
You mean not even a professor? Oh, I know how the mind of a detective works.
Lucky you. No, there were too many booby traps aimed just at you, I'm afraid, Professor. The brandy, the cheese.
The police ran a rather hasty search through here, through the whole house. Warned us still not to touch anything.
Yeah, I know.
But the only thing that bothers me is my wife. Is that doctor still upstairs with her, or did you...
No, he's not. Of course he's not. Why should he be?
Huh? Darling.
Hello, Mrs. Cable.
You shouldn't have come down.
Why not? Just because my own sister died? When bad things happen, you get stronger. Isn't that the way it works? Besides, that policeman said I'd have to answer some questions.
Oh, I don't think very many, Mrs. Cable.
About where I was and if I heard the shot, or where you were, and... Well, Won't there be things like that?
Well, of course, darling, but you mustn't worry about
Mr. Valentine, I know my answers, too. I was in my room lying down, and if I heard anything, I didn't realize what it was, and I wasn't even aware anyone else existed.
Well, I'd gone out for a walk, darling, just after Mr. Valentine and Miss Brooks left the house. I didn't get back until afterwards.
Edward, I saw you cleaning the gun.
What's that? You saw what, Mrs. Cable?
Saw me cleaning the gun, I think she said. Go on, darling, go on.
Mr. Valentine, when I wrote to you and you phoned and I couldn't remember, that's all it was. Yesterday I saw Edward here cleaning a gun, a revolver. And it scared me.
So that's it. I knew you saw me, of course. Everyone...
Hey, now, wait a minute, Fred, wait a minute. This gun, was it the same one we found?
I haven't even seen that one yet. I was cleaning a 38.
38?
Yeah.
George, it must be the same one.
Excuse me, I want to use the telephone. Okay, Captain, I'll wait for you. Gonna run some tests, Brooksy.
I'll show you.
George!
Stop it.
Yeah,
No,
listen.
I won't. How do you like that for Cable? Stop it. What's the matter with you?
Hey, what's going on?
Are you crazy?
Rossiter, break it up, will you? Let go of him. I said let go. Come on, get in here.
He just jumped out at me. I didn't even see him there.
Shut up.
Bill Ross. Bill, you've been drinking.
And what if I have? Is that any affair of yours?
You've been drinking.
About 14 sniffs, and he's all ready to set sail, aren't you, Buster?
Will you let go of my arm?
No, he's all right, Valentine. I'm sure he's all right. Probably a good deal better than my jaw.
What's the matter? Did I break you?
Buster, I know you don't like the professor much, but why...
Did I say that? Professor, did I say...
He fished you out of a hole once, so what do you do?
No. I didn't say that. It's just that I always used to like Jessie pretty well.
And so you attack me. Well, that certainly makes good sense.
I just think you killed her. Who else could have?
George?
Who else? Am I supposed to answer this, Mr. Valentine?
Now, all of you, listen. The professor didn't kill her.
What?
I said he didn't do it. There's no question about that.
Well, I didn't really have anything to go on, of course, Professor. I don't know what comes over me exactly when I get this way.
Of course he couldn't. He's never done anything bad in his whole life.
Mrs. Cable, please.
10 years ago, there was a young English instructor. Oh, he's not even here anymore. But I thought for a while that I'd married the wrong man. And
Darling, it's all forgotten.
I mean, I couldn't help myself. And yet you've never once blamed me. You've never once raised your voice
For the
or
last
failed
time,
to forgive.
Mrs. Cable, we don't want to hear it. Come on, Professor. I can't stand any more of this.
Well?
You know what I mean.
Valentine, you've just seen that when a man tries to help people, sooner or later they turn on him. They hate him for it.
That's a good cliche.
Do you mind if I fix myself a brandy and soda?
Why? You want to take it back in there and wave it in front of poor Rossiter's nose?
He's an unfortunate case. Just no willpower.
You should know. Aren't you afraid you'll pour yourself some poison?
Oh, no. When I went out this evening, I picked up a fresh bottle. And a soda, too.
Well, you're so careful.
You're so rude. Oh, I don't mean to offend. But you did just say that you knew I hadn't killed Jessie. So, really...
Buster, do you want me to draw you a diagram?
Pardon me,
Oh, no, I'm getting that. Yeah, hello. Speaking. That's it, huh? Okay, thanks.
George, what was it?
Well, Valentine, come on. Don't keep us in suspense.
It's what I asked the police to check earlier. It's what everything has been pointing to and nobody's yet looked at. Buster, it's exactly what you know it is.
What?
Jessie committed suicide.
Suicide?
Yeah. It all fits, doesn't it? Who's the most likely person to have done the poisoning?
Well, I know it's Jessie.
She kept house. She was here all the time. And if you assume for a minute that she was the poisoner, then the rest of it falls together, too. The bright boy here got suspicious. She got scared. And then who shows up at the house? The cops.
I thought she died before you and Captain Martinson got back.
She didn't. I heard the shot myself, and she must have heard the siren.
But, George, the open French windows and the locked hall door and the gun wasn't even near her body.
Jessie stands by the open windows to see who's coming. And when she sees, she kills herself. And then her dying effort is to crawl for that hall door. To unlock it? Oh, no, Angel. To lock it. To keep us out. To keep from ever having to tell what she'd done.
You mean the poisoning? Only George...
Yes, the poisoning. I got him to run all the tests. Powder burns, paraffin, the works. They even got Jesse's fingerprints off that smelly imported cheese.
A feeling of guilt. Well, it was a pretty weak thing to do. The poisoning.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. You knew she was doing it, didn't you, Professor?
Of course not.
Because that's what tipped me, you know. Yesterday, you cleaned a gun and let everybody see you do it. Just in case anyone wanted to use it. Late this afternoon, when Jessie knew the poison wasn't working and the police were coming close, she must have wanted to use it on you. But where were you?
I told you.
Yes, I know, sure. Out taking a walk, sure. From the time we left until after we got back. And the poor frantic woman must have hoped and hoped that you'd get home first. But you didn't. And so she had to use it on herself. Just the way you planned she might.
Mr. Valentine, sometimes people like yourself resent it when they come up against someone they can't understand.
If you're talking about yourself, I think I can, Professor.
But I doubt if your wife can, or Bill Rossiter in there.
I'll say they can't. I've never met so many deluded people.
They're weak.
And you're strong. They lean on you, don't they? You make them lean on you until they don't even know their own mind.
I'm afraid I know what's best for them, my dear.
You know what's best for yourself, you mean? It's what you live on, isn't it? The missteps and the little mistakes that you've forgiven others. And never let them forget that you're so forgiving.
I helped those people, every one of them. If it weren't for me, they
Yes,
would...
if it weren't for you, they might have faced the music of their own actions and now been able to walk around like human beings. But I've seen how you do it. I saw you make Bill Rossiter pay his little installment money in front of us, in front of strangers. The big, kind protector who loaned him money, who kept his crime secret and then waved a drink in his face to make him smell his own weakness.
Well, he is weak.
Yes. And I saw you throw digs at poor Jessie about her ugliness. And your wife about her condition that you must have caused. And a million more things to make them all worship the tin god professor of humanities. You're as mentally sick as your wife.
Brooksy, cut it out. Will you stop it? Doesn't do any good. We can't ever prove anything about him. We'll never get back at him any better than Jessie did. The one person who could see through him, whose life he'd wrecked, and who could see what he'd done to the lives of other people. She tried with poison and she lost out. She wasn't smart enough to pull the trick. So let's get out of here before I just plain pull his wings off. Hey, wait a second, Brooksy. Add these figures, will you?
No, don't talk to me. That man in there, I'm so
No,
mad.
wait a minute, listen. 2 cc's plus 3 or 4 cc's plus 1.5 cc's. About 7 or 8, isn't it?
What, you mean the poison?
Yeah. Doesn't add up to 15, does it? And that's what was stolen.
George, well, they searched the house once. They looked every place you'd think of.
Jessie thought Gloria'd be gone. The professor alone in the house. Come on.
But he's buying all of his own things, even his soda water he's not using. George! Look at him.
It's too late.
But he hasn't touched anything except his own drink.
Yeah, I know. But what goes into a brandy highball?
Brandy and soda.
And ice cubes, Brooksy. Poisoned ice cubes. Jessie accomplished what she set out to do after all.
George, in a way, I'm sorry for a man like Professor Cable.
Oh, yes, you're a great guy. Help old ladies across the street and then push them into a manhole.
George, what's a chair of humanities?
I don't know, search me. Covers a lot of subjects, doesn't it? Why, you thinking of applying for the vacancy?
No, darling. I don't want a chair. I'd be happy with just a lap.
A switch in time can save you money and increase your safety. I'm talking about the tires on your car. Switching them around at recommended intervals is the only way to make them wear evenly for maximum tire life. At standard stations and independent Chevron gas stations, they have a speedy method for rotating your tires. Why not play it economical and safe by asking for this car saver service regularly? If your tires are already down to those last dangerous miles, you can get new Atlas tires on easy budget terms with a trade-in allowance for your old tires. Atlas grip-safe tires in passenger car service carry a double written warranty. 1, against tire damage from any road hazard for a year. 2, for workmanship and material for the life of the tire. This double warranty is honored by 38,000 Atlas dealers across the United States and Canada. So for economy and safety, have your tires checked at an independent Chevron gas station or a standard station where they say and mean, we take better care of your car. Tonight's adventure of George Valentine has been brought to you by Standard Oil Company of California on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West. Robert Bailey is starred as George, with Virginia Gregg as Brooksy. Let George Do It is written by David Victor and Jackson Gillis and directed by Don Clark. Ted Osborne was heard as Cable, Lorene Tuttle as Gloria, Bob Griffin as Rossiter, Noreen Gamil as Jessie, and Victor Rodman as the captain. The music was composed and presented by Eddie Dunstetter. Your announcer, John Heaston. Listen again next week, same time, same station, to Let George Do It. This is the Mutual Don Lee Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, this was a pretty clever and somewhat deep episode. Of course, when you hear the term humanities, the first instinct is to think of humanitarianism or of caring for human beings. The humanities is a very broad array of subjects, ranging from history, languages, law, literature, performing arts, philosophy, religion, visual arts, and the focus is study of the human condition. And here we have this Professor Cable kind of working his own experiments on the human condition. And one, at least, ends up blowing up in his face in the end. And I like how this episode examines how some forms of superficial kindness can actually be cruel and hurtful. This idea that we benefit by taking personal responsibility, as I said, pretty deep for a half-hour detective show. And this would be one of several episodes where the potential murder victim was definitely pushing people pretty far. A couple episodes they're similar in that way are The Fearless Clown and Christmas in January, which Christmas in January we'll hear, but Fearless Clown is only available from radioarchives.com. And sometimes the story ends with them believing they escaped death only to get it in the end, or sometimes they do actually end up escaping. And Brooksy actually was more forceful. In one way, it was kind of interesting because Brooksy was more forceful than George when they got to the denouement, which definitely made this episode stand out. Alright, well now we turn to listener comments and feedback. A simple, wonderful podcast. I've always loved old-time radio detective shows. And then a simple, hey Adam, keep up the great work, and those are off of Podcast Alley, and definitely appreciate it. That'll do it for this week. We'll be back tomorrow with Sherlock Holmes, and next week another episode of Let George Do It. Well, before we do get started, I want to encourage you, if you've not already, to try Netflix. Netflix continues to grow in popularity because of its great offerings of both DVDs as well as Instant Watch. In Canada, they've just passed 1 million subscribers. And there's a lot of great content. We've mentioned some of it before. Quite a bit of Sherlock Holmes, some Miss Marple, and with 90,000 DVDs and an ever-growing number of Instant Watch titles, you can definitely find something that'll be of interest to you. You can try Netflix out for free. Go to netflix.greatdetectives.net, or if you are in Canada, go to netflixca.greatdetectives.net. Well, now it's time for today's episode of Sherlock Holmes' Death in the North Sea.
Kreml Hair Tonic and Kreml Shampoo present the new adventures of Sherlock Holmes, starring Nigel Bruce as Dr. Watson and Tom Conway as Sherlock Holmes. Now for our weekly visit to the famous chronicler of Sherlock Holmes, our good friend, Dr. Watson. Well, Dr. Watson, how are you this evening?
Oh, in the best of spirits, Mr. Bell. Thank you. And you?
Never better, thank you. And am I correct in deducing that faded old newspaper lying upon your desk has something to do with the story you're going to tell us tonight?
Indeed, Mr. Bell. Here you are. The London Times of September the 4th, 1903. Take a look at this.
Judges summing up to jury interrupted. Sensational solution by Mr. Sherlock Holmes.
Yes, I think that you will find it equally sensational, Mr. Bell. It was one of Holmes's most dramatic cases. But first, you want a word with our listeners. Go ahead while I light up my pipe.
Thank you, Dr. Watson. Men, in summer when you go without your hat, does your hair get dry, wild, and unruly looking? After a swim, does it feel sticky and stringy? Then remember, Kreml Hair Tonic keeps dry, wild, sun-baked hair looking perfectly groomed throughout the hottest, stickiest day, as if your barber had just combed it. You see, Kreml contains a special combination of hair grooming ingredients which is found in no other hair tonic. This wonderful, natural-looking hairdressing has just enough light oil to keep hair neatly groomed with an attractive, healthy-looking luster. Yet Kreml never leaves the hair looking or feeling greasy or sticky. Kreml always looks and feels so clean on both hair and scalp. It leaves the scalp feeling so cool, so refreshed and alive. Be sure to try it, men. Kreml, Kreml Hair Tonic. And now that I see you've got your pipe drawing to your satisfaction, Dr. Watson, how about the story you promised?
Well, Holmes and I had just returned from a long-anticipated holiday in Scotland. Mrs. Hudson greeted us with the news that a lady was at that moment awaiting us in our rooms. And as we opened the door...
Oh, Mr. Holmes, at last, thank heaven.
I beg your
You
pardon.
must save him. He didn't do it. I know he didn't. And they'll hang him. They'll hang him. No one in the world but you can help him now.
Now, my dear madam, you must control yourself. I can't possibly help you until I know your problem.
Oh, you must excuse me.
Here, my dear. You drink this. It'll make you feel better.
Oh, thank you. I've been waiting for you, Mr. Holmes, praying for your return for days. You left no forwarding address.
I know. Dr. Watson and I had promised ourselves a real holiday.
I'm Edith Fairmont. Evidently that name means nothing to you. You haven't seen the newspapers?
No, not for 4 weeks, thank heavens.
Compose yourself, madam, and tell us what has brought you here. And remember that we know nothing beyond the obvious facts that you are in great distress and, from your peril, recently widowed.
Well, I shall try to give you a clear account, Mr. Holmes. You're my one remaining hope. Some 10 years ago, I married Augustus Fairmont, a marriage which, I frankly admit, was forwarded more by my parents than by any wishes of mine. I was then only 18. Augustus was more than 20 years older than I. He was a diamond importer, and a very successful one. Our marriage was perhaps not an ideally happy one. But for 10 years, I did my best to be a good wife to Augustus.
No, my dear. Just
please
take it
continue,
easy.
Mrs.
Take it
Fairmont.
easy.
About a year ago, my husband took into partnership with him a young man of 32, Charles Rossiter. During the ensuing months, Charles and I fell in love, Mr. Holmes. But I assure you that both my self-respect and Charles's high sense of honor kept us from anything more than a declaration of that love. Oh, I beg you to believe that I'm telling you the entire truth.
I'm sure you realize, Mrs. Fairmont, that is the only thing to do.
Yes, of course, of course.
Charles wanted to discuss our problem with my husband, but I persuaded him to let me approach Augustus. But the result was as I had anticipated. Afterward, I met Charles for tea, as we'd agreed, to tell him what had happened.
Edith, my dear, I thought you'd never get here.
It was difficult, Charles, even more difficult than we expected. I hate to tell you this, my dearest.
You don't have to tell me. I knew as soon as I saw you.
Augustus refused even to discuss the possibility of giving me a divorce. You know how violent his temper is. He really frightened me.
I wish you'd let me speak to him.
I'm glad I didn't. His hatred for you is great enough as it is.
But how can he want to hold you tight to him in marriage knowing that you love me? I should think that any decent
Evidently you don't know Augustus very well. He has an almost abnormal sense of possession. Whatever belongs to him, he'll keep, no matter what the cost.
Very well, then. You've tried to do the right thing. Since he won't give you a divorce, there's only one thing left. Leave him. You and I will go to America or the continent and make a new life there for ourselves.
I can't, Charles. You know that I love you, but we could never find happiness in that sort of life. I want to be your wife, Charles, to have children. And since that's denied us, we must stop seeing each other. I shall always love you, dear.
Edith, you can't go out of my life like that.
There's no other way. Goodbye, my darling. That was the last meeting I had with Charles, Mr. Holmes.
I see. Go on, Mrs. Fairmont.
Well, my husband and Charles were, under the circumstances, equally anxious to dissolve their partnership. They agreed to make a final trip to Amsterdam to complete a transaction which they'd previously arranged, after which the business was to be dissolved.
How long ago was this?
A little more than a month ago. The day before they left, my husband, telling me that he was unable to find the revolver which he always carried when transporting valuable shipments of diamonds, asked me to buy him a new one. I did so, and he took it with him when he sailed. 2 days later, having completed their business in Amsterdam, Charles and my husband started back to England aboard the night boat from Flushing. My husband had with him over 10,000 pounds worth of unset diamonds which they'd purchased.
I assume, Mrs. Fairmont, that this part of your narrative is all hearsay.
What I'm telling you now, I've learned from the police. Charles and my husband had adjoining cabins on the boat. It was a foggy night in the North Sea, and about midnight, a German gentleman in the cabin adjoining my husband's, on the other side from Charles's, heard the sounds of a violent quarrel between Charles and Augustus.
Stuart! Stuart! Yes, Mr. Smith? What can I do for you? Listen to that bellowing in there. Is this a cattle boat? How can I sleep with such a verfluchte noise going on?
Oh, I'm very sorry, sir. The gentleman do seem a bit agitated, like. I'll knock on the door. I'm sorry, sir, but there's been a complaint from some of the passengers regarding the noise.
Oh, all right.
There you are, Mr. Smith. If there's any more disturbance, just ring for me.
If there is any more disturbance, I go to the captain. For an hour now I have been trying to get to sleep.
Oh, what was that?
That was a shot, you Dummkopf. Come.
It's locked.
Well, break it down.
Oh, good heavens.
That man is dead. Dead as a doornail.
It's Augustus. What's happened?
You ask what has happened? With that man dead on the floor and you in the doorway between your cabins? Here, Stuart, get the captain. I'll watch this murder until you come back.
There, Mrs. Fairmont. I can understand what a strain it must be for you to tell all this. Let me get you some aromatic...
Oh, I'm all right, Dr. Watson. Thank you.
Your husband had died instantly, Mrs. Fairmont?
So the police said, Mr. Holmes. Apparently the revolver had been fired at very close range, directly into his head. They said he must have fallen dead on the instant.
And the revolver?
Well, it was gone, Mr. Holmes. The porthole which gave onto the sea was wide open. The police, of course, say that Charles threw the revolver out of the porthole after shooting Augustus. The bullet was a .32 caliber, the same as the one I had purchased at my husband's request.
And what has Mr. Charles Rossiter to say?
Well, what is there for him to say?
Oh, quiet, Watson.
Oh, I don't blame you for thinking that Charles is guilty, Dr. Watson. Everyone in the world thinks so. But I know that he isn't. He's sworn to me that it's a complete mystery to him, and I believe him. If I didn't believe him, there'd be nothing left to live for.
The police arrested him, of course.
Oh, naturally. He goes to trial at the Old Bailey tomorrow. Oh, Mr. Holmes, you must save him. You must. You're my only hope. No one else can do it. Say that you will.
I cannot promise that, Mrs. Fairmont. I'll undertake the case, but you must understand that anything I discover, even though it may be evidence damning to Mr. Rossiter, will be turned over to the police.
That's all I ask. I know he's innocent, and I have faith that you'll prove it.
I beg you not to indulge in any false hopes, Mrs. Fairmont. I shall do my best to uncover the truth, but we have little time at our disposal. You omitted to mention what had happened to the diamonds. Were they found on your husband's person?
Oh, I almost forgot. They seemed so unimportant. The diamonds were missing, Mr. Holmes.
Huh? Missing? Oh. How do you account for that?
The police think that Charles was going to steal them, and that suddenly realizing the impossibility of the idea, he threw both them and the revolver out of the porthole.
Odd. Well, with the trial starting tomorrow, Mrs. Fairmont, Watson and I have much to do. Our first task must be a complete examination of the police records of the case. I know you'll excuse us if we hurry off, Mrs. Fairmont. Our first call must be on Mr. Charles Rossiter in prison.
And as heaven's my witness, Mr. Holmes, I've told you and Dr. Watson everything I know.
You say that you and your late partner had taken out business insurance on each other's lives?
Yes, Mr. Holmes, to the extent of £25,000 apiece.
£25,000 apiece? I say that makes it look even worse, Holmes, huh?
Unfortunately, yes. One more question, Mr. Rossiter. After the quarrel on the boat, when the steward had knocked and requested silence, you went back into your own cabin. Is that correct?
It is, Mr. Holmes.
And according to you, you heard the sound of a shot from Fairmont's cabin a moment later. How much time would you say had elapsed?
Oh, a very short interval, not more than 15 seconds at the outside.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Rossiter, I'll do what I can, but...
Oh, I know it's hopeless. I wouldn't believe the story myself if I heard it from someone else. Tell me, Dr. Watson, you're a medical man. Could I conceivably have had a lapse of memory? Could I have shot Fairmont without knowing anything about it?
Well, it seems to me almost inconceivable. I never heard of a case of amnesia or loss of memory that began and ended all in the space of a couple of minutes.
Well, come on, Watson. We must be going.
Mr. Holmes, do you think there's any chance?
Keep up your courage, Mr. Rossiter. There's always a chance. Water.
I say, Holmes, I grant you that Mrs. Fairmont's a lovely woman and that young Rossiter had a lot of provocation. But why did you tell him that there was a chance? It hardly seems cricket to me.
I told him that there was a chance, Watson, for the excellent reason that there is.
Chance of what?
Of acquitting Rossiter of a crime which he very obviously did not commit.
What do you mean to say?
Come along, Watson. We've no time to stand about arguing. Rossiter's trial opens tomorrow morning. And if we're to secure the evidence we need, you and I have our work cut out for us.
Evidence? Evidence of what?
Evidence to convince a jury. The sequence of events is obvious, but it'll require a continuous chain of proof to convince a jury of Rossiter's innocence.
Innocence? On my soul, Holmes, I think you must be mad. The prosecution has an absolutely clear-cut case, and you go on practicing about Rossiter's innocence. If Rossiter didn't shoot Augustus Fairmont, somebody must have.
Somebody did, Watson. And a devilishly clever plot he invented, too. But if we're to save Rossiter from hanging, it's up to us to prove it.
In just a moment, we'll find out if Sherlock Holmes is able to prove it. Men, on hot, sticky summer days, your hair needs extra special care. And when you buy a hair tonic, why not buy one that does lots more than keep your hair looking handsome? Why not get your money's worth and buy Kreml hair tonic? No other hair tonic keeps the hair more neatly groomed and attractive looking. Kreml gives hair such a handsome, clean-cut appearance. It keeps the hair perfectly groomed throughout the hottest, stickiest day. It never looks or feels greasy or sticky. In addition, Kreml is simply great to lubricate a dry scalp. At the same time, it removes itchy, loose dandruff and leaves the hair, the scalp, feeling so clean, refreshed, and alive. No wonder Kreml is preferred among America's most prosperous men. Buy a bottle of Kreml at any drug counter. Ask for an application at your barber shop. Use this highly specialized hair tonic daily for better groomed hair, a more hygienic scalp. Kreml, Kreml Hair Tonic. Now, Dr. Watson, what steps did you and Sherlock Holmes take next to prove Rossiter's innocence?
Well, Holmes and I hurried to the offices of Fairmont and Rossiter in Hatton Gardens. Assisted by Fairmont's chief clerk, a little dried-up wisp of a man, we spent the next hour in an intensive study of Fairmont's old checkbook stuff.
There's no question of it, Watson. These regular payments, month after month, to Mademoiselle Elaine Dufour can only mean one thing.
Oh, I don't see why. She might have been an old nurse of his or something.
Really, Watson. Huh? One does not pay one's old nurse £50 a month over a period of years.
Oh, that's all right.
Thank heaven we found Mademoiselle Dufour's address.
Why?
Because you're leaving for Paris tonight. Huh? And I want you to bring back Mademoiselle Dufour no matter what means you use to persuade her.
Oh, really, Holmes? What are you going to do? Be doing what while I'm off on this wild goose chase?
I have a few things to look into, Watson. Quite a few things. And you performed the post-mortem yourself, Dr. McPherson?
I did, Mr. Holmes. And I'm prepared to stake my professional reputation that Augustus Fairmont would have been dead within a year, no matter what had been done. That disease had progressed too far for surgeries to have been any use whatsoever.
You told the police this, of course.
Oh, naturally. They weren't interested. All they cared about was the bullet which finished the fellow off.
Of course, you understand, Mr. Holmes, that after the police had finished, this cabin was all straightened up. New carpet on the floor, everything ship-shape.
Quite. And Mr. Fairmont's body was lying right here. Is that right, Stewart?
It was indeed, sir, and a fair turn he gave me, with half his head blown off.
And this cabin and the adjoining one, occupied by Mr. Rossiter, are identical in every way?
Yes, sir.
Ah, I'd hoped to find something like this.
What was that, sir?
Take a good look at this, Stewart. I may need your evidence in court. This rather deep nick here in the lower part of the brass rim of the porthole.
Oh, I see the nick all right, sir, but I'm blasted if I can make
Just tell me one thing. After the tragedy, was any heavy object missing from Mr. Fairmont's cabin? Something heavy but fairly small?
That's a queer thing, sir, now that you come to mention it. I reported to the chief steward that the heavy glass water bottle was gone when the police let me straighten up the cabin. But I didn't think nothing of it at the time, so that maybe it got smashed in all the confusion.
Thank you, Steward. Thank you very much indeed.
And you asked me to come back to England with you, Dr. Watson?
Yeah, I do indeed, Mademoiselle Dufour.
To go into court and tell everything? I know nothing about your English laws. Perhaps I render myself liable to prosecution. All this for the sake of a man whom I have never seen.
Not only for his sake, mademoiselle, but also for the sake of the woman who loves him. And, most important of all, for the sake of right and justice. To save a man from hanging for a crime that he did not commit. There's no way in which I can force you to come with me. I can only most earnestly beg you to do what we both know is the right thing.
And in the final analysis, members of the jury, I must remind you that the decision as to Charles Rossiter's guilt or innocence rests solely with you. Under the law, my province as judge is merely to assist you in reaching a just verdict. And this I have endeavored to do by summing up for you the evidence to which we have been listening during these last 3 days. The prosecution has endeavored to prove to you that this man, who has not denied his love for Mrs. Fairmont, knew that they could never be together so long as her husband should live. You have heard the evidence of their quarrel on the boat, of the shooting and of the scene found by Mr. Schmidt, the steward, and the other witnesses when the door to the cabin was broken down. You have heard the suggestion of premeditation in the purchase of the weapon by Mrs. Fairmont. A weapon which, though missing, was of identical caliber with the bullet which killed her husband. You have heard the prisoner's protestations of innocence and his own inability to offer any logical explanation of the tragedy. Under these circumstances,
My lord, I beg leave to interrupt.
Well, Sir Aubrey, what is it you want to say?
During the entire trial, my lord, my client and I have put our hopes in an investigation being conducted by the eminent criminologist, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. Mr. Holmes has just arrived in court, together with his colleague, Dr. Watson, who has brought with him from Paris a witness whose evidence is vital to the defense. I respectfully beg your lordship's permission, and that of the prosecution, to allow Mr. Holmes to tell us what he has discovered.
It is most irregular, Sir Aubrey, but the primary concern of this court is that justice be done. In view of Mr. Sherlock Holmes' distinguished record and many services to the law, I see no objection to granting your request.
Thank you, my lord. I assure you that we would not have waited till so late in this trial to present our evidence had it not been for the fact that Dr. Watson has only at this moment arrived from Paris, escorting a lady who is the final link in that chain of evidence.
Proceed, Mr. Holmes.
The late Augustus Fairmont, married to a woman more than 20 years his junior, was a man with a very great sense of possession. Whether or not he loved his wife, he was determined that no one else should have her. And when his wife freely and honestly confronted him with her admission that she loved another man, Fairmont could think of nothing but revenge.
I'm willing to allow you a fair amount of latitude, Mr. Holmes, but this seems to have no bearing on the case.
With your lordship's permission, I hope to establish its bearing in just a moment. I have here in court Dr. Macpherson, who conducted the post-mortem upon the late Mr. Fairmont. Dr. Macpherson will testify that Augustus Fairmont was suffering from an incurable disease which would unquestionably have killed him within another year. Silence in the court! Also in court and ready to testify is Sir Edward Penrose of Harley Street, to whom Augustus Fairmont went for an opinion just a little more than 6 weeks ago. Sir Edward informed Fairmont, who had never before suspected the presence of this disease, that he would be lucky if he lived for 6 months, and that there was nothing to be done. Now, Fairmont faced with the knowledge that he would die, probably painfully and lingeringly, within a few months at most. And the bitterness of this knowledge must have been increased 100-fold by the realization that his death would remove the last barrier to the wedding of these two people who loved each other.
Bravo, Holmes. Quiet in the court. Oh, sir.
Then Augustus Fairmont evolved in his twisted mind a perfect plot. He would die, not lingeringly and painfully, but instantly. And in dying, he would make sure that Charles Rossiter, the man he hated, would be hanged for his murder. With his partner, Rossiter, Fairmont sailed to Amsterdam. But when he had purchased some 10,000 pounds worth of diamonds, the thought crossed his mind of making a final provision for the woman whom, for many years, he'd been seeing in France. She's here now, due to Dr. Watson. And I will ask her to rise. Mademoiselle Dufour, is it not true that Mr. Fairmont provided for you during the last 6 or 7 years, and that he visited you frequently during his trips to the continent?
That is correct, Mr. Holmes.
Now, will you please tell the court what you received in the mail from Mr. Fairmont the day after you read of his death?
I received a package containing a small fortune in unset diamonds, together with a letter from Auguste, saying that I would not hear from him again, that I should make no inquiries concerning him, and that these diamonds would provide me with sufficient funds for the rest of my life.
Thank you very much, Mademoiselle Dufour.
Quiet in the courtroom.
I think that will be all.
Oh, magnificent, my dear. I'm very, very proud of you. Well done. Very well done.
Provided for the woman with whom he had so long a friendship. He did this with the knowledge that he was to die that very night. On board the boat, he purposely entered into a noisy argument with young Rossiter, an argument which ended with the steward knocking on the door. A moment later, Rossiter returned to his own cabin and shut the communicating door. The instant he had done so, Fairmont, took from its place of concealment the revolver which, with studied malice, he had caused his wife to buy. This revolver Fairmont had previously prepared for what he was about to do by tying a stout string from its trigger guard to the heavy glass water bottle he had taken from his cabin wall. It was the work of but a moment, after Rossiter had closed the door, to suspend the heavy bottle outside the porthole which gave directly upon the sea. Then Fairmont raised the revolver to his head and pulled the trigger. As he fell dead, the revolver, released from his hand, was pulled sharply up and out of the porthole by the heavy weight of the bottle. It hit the edge of the porthole, nicking the brass rim, and then disappeared forever into the depths of the North Sea.
Unless this demonstration is stopped instantly, I shall have the courtroom cleared.
My lad, in view of the evidence offered by Mr. Sherlock Holmes, the Crown withdraws its charge against Charles Rossiter.
Oh, great work, Holmes. Great work. You brought it off, old man.
I never could have, Watson, if you hadn't been persuasive enough to get Mademoiselle Dufour here in time.
Very good to say so, boy. Ah, look. Here comes Mrs. Fairmont.
Oh, God bless you, Mr. Holmes. And you too, Dr. Watson. Oh, I've got to kiss you both.
Oh, very nice of you. Upon my word, that's the nicest fee we've ever had.
Now, friends, our guest star, one of the greatest authorities on feminine beauty, that king of glamour, John Robert Powers. And you know, Mr. Powers is famous for his $1 million Powers models. Gorgeous girls you often see on magazine covers, in the movies, in exclusive fashion shows. Ladies and gentlemen, by special transcription, Mr. John Robert Powers.
Good evening, friends. I have a little surprise for you this evening, as I brought along one of my most attractive Powers girls of all times, Ellen Allardyce. And perhaps we can get Ellen to tell us how she keeps her hair so bright and shining. Will you, Ellen?
I owe all that to you, Mr. Powers. Do you remember how you told me to always wash my hair with Kreml shampoo?
I certainly do, Ellen. I tell all my Powers girls to use Kreml shampoo. I'm thoroughly convinced that no other shampoo leaves the hair more radiant with such natural, brilliant luster. And Kreml shampoo keeps it that way for days.
What I like about Kreml shampoo is that it never dries the hair.
That's right, Ellen, because Kreml shampoo has a built-in oil base. This oil base actually helps keep the hair from becoming dry and brittle.
I know it. Kreml shampoo always leaves the hair so much silkier with a lovely natural satin sheen. And I love the way Kreml shampoo whips up just lots and lots of luxuriant active foam, even in the hardest water.
Ellen, I think every girl owes it to herself to try Kreml shampoo. I feel certain she'll be in for one of the greatest beauty thrills of her life. Because, without a doubt, in all my years spent in helping women become more attractive, I've never come across a more beautifying shampoo than Kreml shampoo.
Many, many thanks to you, Mr. Powers, and to your very lovely Powers model, Miss Ellen Allardyce. Now, Dr. Watson, what about next week?
Well, now, let me see. Next week, in answer to many requests, I think I shall tell you about the most gruesome and most horrifying experience that Holmes and I ever had. It concerns the frightening happenings at Stoke Moran, the home of Dr. Grimesby Roylott, and tells how Holmes solved the mystery of the death of one of Dr. Roylott's two daughters and prevented the murder of the other. I call it The Adventure of the Speckled Band.
Tonight's new Sherlock Holmes adventure was suggested by an incident in Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's story, The Problem of Thor Bridge. Nigel Bruce appeared by permission of Universal International Pictures. Tom Conway through the courtesy of Eagle Lion Pictures. The Sherlock Holmes series is produced by Tom McKnight, with original music composed and conducted by Alex Steinert. This is Joseph Bell speaking for Kreml Hair Tonic and Kreml Shampoo. and inviting you to be with us next week at this same time. Dr. Watson will tell us about the adventure of the Speckled Band. ABC, the American Broadcasting Company.
Welcome back. So next week we're going to revisit the Speckled Band. So we're looking forward to that. All right, well, now we turn to listener comments. I listen to these, this comes from Podcast Alley. I listen to these radio shows all the time. I just love them. And Adam Graham is performing a huge service to all of us who love the old-time radio detective shows. Keep up the great work, Bill. And then we have a couple comments from over on Facebook. Ben says, love the podcast, just what I've been looking for. Any idea where I can get any radio detective posters? I've been searching for a while and can't find much at all. Do they even exist? I would love to have one featuring Johnny Dollar. Well, as far as I know that they do not exist. There certainly were occasionally like little flyers and promotional items for some shows when they were actually made, but nobody's making anything currently, certainly not posters we could find. One thing I had some hope for was Moonstone Books, who of course released a Johnny Dollar graphic novel a few years back. I was thinking that they may have a poster made, but no, I couldn't find a poster over there. If you happen to know where someone can get some good artwork posters of radio detectives, email me, box13@greatdetectives.net, and I will pass that information along. Finally, a comment regarding Video Theater 19 Behind Green Lights. Awesome movie. Look great on my iPad. Thanks. From Mike over on Facebook, and I'm glad you enjoy it, and glad folks are watching the films. And that will actually do it for this week of Sherlock Holmes. We'll be back tomorrow with yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Well, before we do get started with today's episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, I want to remind you, as you're making your travel plans, remember the name JohnnyDollarAir.com. JohnnyDollarAir.com can help save you money, whether you're flying out to Jamaica or just renting a car to go across the state. You can either name your own price through Priceline's special feature, or you can choose from great published specials. Plus, part of your purchase goes to support the great detectives of old-time radio. So next time you travel, remember the name JohnnyDollarAir.com. Now it's time for today's episode, The Hannibal Murphy Matter.
From Hollywood, it's time now for Edmund O'Brien as
Johnny Dollar.
Inspector Trabert returning your call, sir.
Oh, yes, Inspector. Thanks very much. I wonder when I could talk with you about the Hannibal Murphy death.
Why, at your pleasure, sir. Do I understand you've come all the way from the States?
Yes. The news broke yesterday, and his insurance company thought I'd better. The reports weren't quite clear on whether or not it was accidental.
Then you haven't heard.
Only that he somehow fell off a cliff.
Oh, then I hope you'll pardon my being a bit nonplussed at your timely arrival. Mr. Murphy's death was definitely not accidental. Examination this morning revealed a bullet wound in his head.
Edmund O'Brien in a transcribed adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Plymouth Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Hannibal Murphy matter. Expense account item 1, $264.80, airfare and incidentals between Hartford and Kingston, island of Jamaica. After checking into the Myrtle Bank Hotel and reporting by phone to the British Constabulary, I went over late that morning and met the officer in charge.
Well, Mr. Dollar, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Inspector Trabert.
Although news of the death of one of your countrymen is hardly the kind of invitation I should like to send you.
If it hadn't been Mr. Murphy, I probably would have been invited to a murder someplace else. It's a popular pastime. What do you know about the Murphys, Inspector? I understand he's survived by a widow.
Yeah, there's a brother also, Paul Murphy, and a stepdaughter, Felice.
Oh, I didn't know about them. You mean they're all here in Kingston?
Yes, the brother has lived here for the past 2 years, has a cottage just outside town. The deceased and his family were visiting him. They'd been here for 2 months.
Anyone else?
2 servants, an old cook and a young man who has rather general duties.
Do you have any kind of a theory, Inspector?
Since the fact of the murder was proved only this morning, no. Except that it was murder, the position of the wound in the head rules out suicide.
Any suspicions, then?
No, none that I wish to voice at the moment. Perhaps you'd like to visit the scene of the crime, or rather the point from which the body fell into the sea.
Thanks, Inspector, I would. Like most British police officers, he was playing it close to the vest. But on the way, he did let me know that he considered the Murphys, including the surviving brother, to be people who had been spoiled by too much money, were completely selfish, and quite possibly could be hated by a number of people. After a drive of a few minutes, we left the car and crossed through a strip of shaded parkway to a bridle path that paralleled the cliff some 100 feet in height. At the bottom, breakers piled in against a jumble of coral and rocks.
Here we are. We wrote the section off in case we might learn something from the marks, though I doubt we will. There, you see, on the edge, the torn earth and the broken branches.
Yeah. His body was found below. Huh?
Yes, it was discovered by a young islander who was searching for shellfish at an early morning low tide.
You said the Murphy cottage wasn't far away. Can you see it from here?
No, it's beyond the trees there. The path turns inland before it reaches the grove.
Does this cliff run near their place?
Yes. I believe so that you and I share a common bewilderment.
Well, if his killer met him here, why shoot him if he could have been pushed over the cliff and killed that way, huh?
Precisely. We should have had a devil of a time proving it was murder at all.
Unless the killer wasn't strong enough to get him over while he was alive. Like a woman.
A possibility that does present itself, doesn't it? Yet, if he'd been shot and fallen here, then dragged to the edge, there would have been signs. But there are none. No bloodstains, nothing.
Yeah.
So, unless he was shot somewhere else and carried here, we must visualize the victim and the killer standing side by side on the sheer edge of the precipice, gazing out to sea a moment before the shot was fired.
Can we go to the house now?
I had planned to wait until I had a more complete report from ballistics, but please feel free to pay them a visit if you wish to.
Thanks, Inspector. I should let them know I'm here.
Very good. Come along. I'll drop you by.
The theory that Murphy was shot someplace else had holes in it, too. If the idea was to dispose of the body, why dump it so close to his home? The mail servant answered my knock, told me Mrs. Murphy was resting, and left me on the veranda while he went to find out if she'd see me. A few seconds after he'd gone, I met another member of the household, the daughter. Plain girl with short hair, gangling figure, and troubled eyes.
What's the matter? Wouldn't he let you in?
He thought I'd better wait out here.
What do you want?
I came to see Mrs. Murphy.
About what happened?
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
My name is Felice. I'm her daughter. I can let you in.
Oh, thanks.
You're an American, aren't you?
That's right. My name is Dollar.
You've come here because of what happened to my stepfather. Why did you?
I was sent by his insurance company in the States.
Oh, I'd forgotten about that. I suppose he left a lot. He always did everything so handsomely. It wasn't an accident, you know. He was murdered. Somebody shot him.
Yes, I know that.
I suppose that there'll be all sorts of trouble now. Police will come and ask all kinds of questions.
Well, things like this are never pleasant. Are you worried about answering questions?
Of course not. Why should I be?
Oh, just the way you mentioned it.
Well, I'm not. I'll tell them everything I know and everything I thought about him. I'm not ashamed.
Felice.
I had a right to hate him.
Felice, stop it. Stop talking that way.
True, and you know it. Every awful thing that ever happened to me is his fault. He was filthy rotten.
Stop it. Go to your room.
All right, I'll go. But you won't be able to send me away when the police come. I'll tell them.
Get out of here.
Yes, Mother.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry. She really doesn't mean what she says. I'm terribly sorry.
You don't have to be, Mrs. Murphy.
But an outburst like that to a perfect stranger, I don't know what you must think.
Oh, I think she's a pretty upset young woman.
But she has no right to be. She's been an extremely difficult child. I don't know what else to say to you. I'm terribly ashamed for her. Now, would you come into the drawing room?
Thank you.
Please, sit down. You are an insurance investigator, Mr. Dollar.
Yes, and if you feel up to it, I'd like to get as clear a picture as I can of what happened the night your husband was killed.
I imagine that I shall have to put up with it, shan't I?
Sooner or later, yes. It probably would have been easier if your husband's brother were here to take part of the responsibility.
Oh, he went to make arrangements for flying my husband home. I'm not sure when he'll be back, but I'll help all I can.
All right. First, Mrs. Murphy, do you have any idea who could have killed your husband?
Not the faintest idea, Mr. Dollar.
You'd been here in Kingston for 2 months. Is that right?
Yes.
Could your husband have made any enemies during that time? Did he mention anything like that?
No, he mentioned nothing. We've been about very little. We only met a few people. Some of Paul's friends. But he couldn't have made any enemies.
Who was here the other night?
No one but Hannibal and Paul and Felice and I. And the servants, of course.
Did your husband leave the house?
Yes, of course he did. It's quite a strange question, Mr. Dollar, considering where he was found.
I'm sorry. Why did he leave?
Paul said he was going to take a walk. He was in the house when I went to my room.
What time was that?
10:15. Paul retired a short time later, and he remembered that Hannibal said he wasn't sleepy. Perhaps he would take a walk.
And I take it your daughter had gone to bed, too.
Yes.
Do you mind if I talk to her now?
Oh, I'd rather you didn't.
Why?
Do you suspect her?
I didn't say that. Do you?
Of course not. A mother would hardly suspect her own daughter.
Why don't you want me to talk to her?
Because she's a poor, unbalanced girl who's filled with warped hates and misunderstandings. She'll say dreadful things about Hannibal. And about me. Things that are absolutely not true.
She'll have to be questioned, Mrs. Murphy.
Of course, I realize that. Well, there's nothing more I can say. I'll show you to her room.
But Felice wasn't in her room. I found her waiting for me on the bridle trail along the cliff. She'd been crying.
I heard her say you were an investigator, and I wanted to talk to you again. I knew I couldn't in the house, so I waited here.
Glad you did.
I don't know what's the matter with me. I shouldn't have said what I did. I meant it when I said it. No, I don't.
I don't think I know quite what you mean.
I'm awfully mixed up. The doctor tried to explain it to me. When my real father died, my mother was all I had. And when he came along, I thought he was stealing her from me. I thought I didn't have anything anymore.
How long ago was that?
It's been 3 years. I was 14 when they were married. But he did take her away. He chucked me into an old school and went off on a trip. I know he didn't do it just to hurt me. But at night it would seem to me that he did. I tried to get over it, but I never could. That's why I'm glad he's dead.
That's not a very wise thing to say, Felice.
I can't help it.
Do you have anything else you wanted to tell me?
No. I wanted to explain why I acted the way I did in the house. I don't suppose you understand.
Part of it, I think I do. Quite a few children have to adjust themselves to step-parents these days. It's tough, and some do it better than others.
I haven't done it well at all. Now I won't have to try anymore. I am sorry for the way I acted. I want to help you every way I can.
How do you think you can help me?
I'm not sure yet. But when I am, I'll let you know.
All right, Felice. I'll be talking to you again. I didn't know then what this strange, mixed-up girl was driving at. I got the impression that she wanted to talk more than she had. But I was fairly sure the way to bring it out was to wait rather than press it too hard. I checked in with Inspector Trader, and his reactions were about the same as mine. On the strength of them, he called Paul Murphy into his office that afternoon.
The last time I saw him was when I went to bed. We'd had a drink together, and he said he wasn't sleepy, and
Thought he might take a walk.
Do you know how long after that he might have left the house?
No, I'm sorry, I don't. I was dead tired. I went right to sleep.
Was he in the habit of taking walks at night?
Sometimes, yeah.
But you didn't hear a shot.
No, I didn't hear anything.
How much time passed, would you say, between the time you left him and the time you were asleep?
Oh, not more than 15 minutes, Inspector.
Then he couldn't have left the house before, say, 11:15.
Yes, that'd be about it.
And you're sure he didn't say anything about meeting anyone?
He simply said he might take a walk. I'm not quite sure that I understand the importance of these questions.
The importance, sir, is this. Your brother was killed by a .25 caliber pistol fired at quite close range. I'm afraid we must assume that if he did not meet anyone, somebody either accompanied him or followed him.
You mean you suspect someone in my house?
We are only stating the facts. Someone was with your brother. We've ruled out the possibility of a robbery motive since both you and the widow have stated that none of his personal effects are missing.
You can see how the thing narrows down, Mr. Murphy.
Yes, I can. I don't know what to say.
Do you mean that you suspect someone?
No, I don't.
If you do, Mr. Murphy, it would be to your advantage to come out with it.
I'm afraid the duty of making accusations is yours, not mine.
A commendable statement, sir, as long as you don't mean that you're withholding information.
I'm not. I have no information at all.
Very well, Mr. Murphy, you may go.
When Paul Murphy left, we both felt that he, too, was holding back, that it would be a long time before he offered any information. But we were only half right. He phoned the office a few minutes after he had reached home.
Yes? Have you called in your own doctor? Dr. Drummond. Yes, I know him. We'll send one immediately and come out ourselves. Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Murphy. Well, the stepdaughter attempted suicide.
How serious?
Mr. Murphy was quite beside himself, and it was hard to know.
What did she do?
Slashed her wrists, a method that was really successful. But the question is, why did she do it?
We will return you to yours truly, Johnny Dollar, in just a moment. Later this evening, the gangbusters give a graphic illustration of what happens when the police hunt a criminal who is a perfectionist. When a gang leader leaves no stone unturned to commit the perfect crime, there's a rough manhunt ahead for the police. Hear the exciting developments when you tune in Gangbusters later this evening on most of these same CBS radio stations. Now, with our star Edmund O'Brien, we bring you the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
Inspector Trabert and I went right out to the Murphy residence, but were held back from Felice's room by both a private and an official physician. The latter was the last to leave her room.
Well, Doctor, how is she?
You can see her now. As you might expect, she's in a highly emotional state.
Yes. Oh, this is Mr. Dollar, Dr. Gurley.
How do you do, sir?
Dr. Gurley, is she going to be all right?
Oh, yes, I think so. You didn't do a very good job of it. I think she needs a good psychiatrist. A very good one.
She's evidently needed one for a long time. She say anything to you?
No, nothing specific. Only that she hates everyone. Well, I wish you luck, gentlemen. I've got to run.
Thank you, Gurley.
Bye, Doctor.
Good day.
Well.
Yeah.
Miss Murphy, we've been told we could see you.
Don't call me Miss Murphy. That's not my name, and it never has been.
Hello, Felice.
Hello, Mr. Dollar. Who is he?
You remember me, Inspector Trabert. I spoke to you yesterday.
I hardly remember yesterday. I hardly remember anything I don't want to. I want to forget.
What do you want to forget?
Everything. My whole life. It's been a waste. Nothing's been right. I hate her.
Please, Miss.
I don't care. I'm going to tell the truth.
What is the truth?
They killed him. My mother and Paul. I saw it all happening.
You were a witness to the killing?
I saw what was happening here. I saw what was happening in England last summer. First, I was glad. I thought he'd go away and I'd never see him again.
Felice.
Then we came here, and I knew it. If it weren't him, it would be somebody else. I knew it would never stop.
Felice, hold it. Slow down.
I'm afraid you'll have to be more specific, young lady.
Do you mean that the marriage between your mother and stepfather was not a happy one?
Started last summer in England. She was getting tired of him. I heard them fighting and calling one another names. They tried to hide it from me because they knew it would make me happy. But I heard them. She wanted to divorce him and he wouldn't let her.
What happened the other night, Felice?
I knew what was happening here, too. I heard them arguing the other night after they sent me to my room. Then I heard Mother go to her room. Then they left the house.
Your stepfather and Paul left the house?
Did you see them leave?
Yes. And then I heard the shot.
What time did you hear it? Do you remember?
Yes, I remember. It was 11:15. I remember because I was lying in bed, awake. And when I heard it, I sat up and I turned on my lamp. And I looked at the clock. Then I turned the lamp off again and went to the window. And in a little while, I saw Paul come back alone.
Why haven't you told us this before, Felice?
I don't know. I was awfully mixed up. She's my mother. At first, I thought I should protect her. Then I thought of everything she'd done to me. She never wanted me. She threw me away. She's never been a real mother. I've always hated her. That's why I'm telling you. Because I hate her and I want her to be punished for everything.
I shall expect you to repeat this in the form of a sworn statement, Miss Felice.
I will, but you've got to take me away from here now. I can't stay here, I'm afraid. I'm afraid of what they'll do.
The girl was moved to the police hospital and later that day repeated her statement under oath. At about the time she was doing that, there was another development. Inspector Trabert received a call from the proprietor of a second-hand shop that specialized in fishing tackle and guns.
After you, sir.
Good afternoon.
Are you Mr. Innes?
I am.
Inspector Trabert.
Oh, I thought you were police when you came in.
This is Mr. Dollar, an American investigator.
How'd you do, sir?
I'm glad to meet you, Mr. Innes. We want to thank you for phoning about the gun.
Well, I thought it was my duty. I've been reading about the murder, and when this chap came in here to sell me a pistol what was the same caliber as the missing weapon, I said to myself, you up to the phone and tell the police.
Could we see the pistol, please?
I've got it right here behind the case. Here we are.
Wait a moment. Have you handled it much?
Handled it? Of course I've handled it. I had to look it over before I paid him for it.
If this is the murder weapon, I'd like to protect any fingerprints that might remain. Let me pick it up. A Webley, Mr. Dollar.
And it's been in England. Would you recognize the man who brought it in, Mr. Innes?
I think so. There's not much trade in guns here, you know. Fishing gear, mostly. I think this is the first gun I've bought in 6 months. Yes, I'd remember him.
Would you describe him, Mr. Innes?
I'll try. He was about my size, I'd say. A little heavier. He had what you'd call brown hair. He was tan.
Is he English or American?
He was English as I am.
Well, thank you, Mr. Innes. It's possible you may be called upon for identification.
Happy to oblige, Inspector. But what about the money? I paid £4 for that pistol.
In view of Felice's sworn statement, Inspector Trabert was forced to make an arrest. So for the last time, we return to the Murphy residence.
And I shall have to remind you that anything you say may be held in evidence against you.
You mean that you're arresting us for Hannibal's murder?
There's nothing else I can do, sir. I have a statement given under oath to the effect that you and the deceased left this house together the night of the murder.
That's not true.
That the sound of a shot was heard and that you were then seen returning to this house alone.
That isn't true.
There's not one word of truth in it. I didn't leave the house with him.
Can you prove that, Mr. Murphy?
Why, Alice, you know I didn't leave, don't you?
Of course he didn't.
Can you prove it, Mrs. Murphy? I understood you to say you were in your room, that you went to sleep immediately and heard nothing.
My daughter made that statement, didn't she?
Under oath and before witnesses.
But she lied. I told you she would, Mr. Dollar. She'd do anything to hurt me. You've got to believe that.
Alice, wait. What did she say was my reason for killing my own brother?
Because of your love for his wife.
Oh, she's insane. How can you believe these things? You're men of intelligence.
We're men who are used to working with evidence. A sworn statement is admissible evidence unless it can be proved false. Neither one of you seems to be able to do that.
Paul!
I don't think we better say any more until we've legal counsel.
No, I won't let her do this to me. We can't, Paul. I think he killed him. She hated him. She was the only one in the house that had reason to kill him.
No good, Alice. What are you going to do with this, Inspector?
I shall have to take you to jail. Sorry.
Oh, you can't.
Would you give us a few minutes to get ready?
Of course.
Come on, Alice.
Oh, you can't.
Go get your things. Everything will be all right.
What do you think, Inspector?
Well, to be quite honest, I'm not sure, but I know my duty as a policeman. The strength of that statement and their innocence or guilt are up to the courts to decide.
Less formally, though, it's a pretty frightening thing to think of. If that girl, in her mental frame of mind, could suddenly decide that she was a witness, make a sworn statement, and bring all this down on two innocent people.
Yes, I know, but the fact remains that they have absolutely nothing to say in their own defense. I've got to arrest them.
The widow and Paul Murphy were taken in, and I couldn't get out of my mind the strength of the case against them as far as the Crown went. A strength built on the fact that there was no evidence and were no witnesses to refute Felice's statement. I suppose that as far as the insurance angle went, my job was done. But after I left Inspector Trabert, I went to the hospital to see the girl again.
Hello, Mr. Dollar.
How are you feeling?
I feel awfully lonely. They arrest Mother and Paul.
Yeah.
Then I'm all alone. She'll never want me back now, no matter what happens. She never wanted me anyway. I'm glad I did it.
If you told the truth, you have nothing to worry about.
What do you mean? I've nothing to worry about.
I mean, if you told the truth, you did the right thing. But if you didn't, you've done one of the worst things anyone could do.
Of course I told the truth. You believe me, don't you?
That doesn't make any difference. The inspector did.
But you do, don't you? You don't think I was lying, do you?
I hope not.
You think I could make it all up? You think I could do a thing like that?
I hope not.
I couldn't. I know what you're thinking. I told you how I hated her and how I hated him. But I could never say the things I said if they weren't true. I could never do a thing like that.
How did you happen to see the two men leave the house together? You never really explained that.
I was looking out the window.
I thought you were in bed.
Not then.
You saw them leave, then went to bed, then you heard the shot, then you got up again and went back to the window?
Yes, that's right.
Was your light on when you saw them leave?
No.
But you turned it on when you heard the shot?
Yes.
Then you turned it off and got out of bed and went back to the window?
Yes.
And who did you see?
I told you, Paul.
You were sure it was Paul?
Yes, I was sure.
Why were you sure?
I saw him.
Why were you sure it was Paul? Why didn't you think it was your stepfather?
I knew it was Paul. Because I had a feeling that something was going to happen. Don't ask me any more questions.
Better get used to them. The defense attorney is going to be asking the same kind if this gets into the courts. Well, I won't bother you anymore, Felice. I guess you're tired.
You don't believe me, do you?
I told you. Doesn't make any difference. As I mentioned, the matter was out of my hands by that time, and I was sort of 50-50 on believing the girl. I made my plane reservations on my way back to the hotel, but when I asked for my key, I got instead a message to phone Inspector Trabert. When I did, he told me, A, that the .25 caliber Webley from the shop was the murder gun, and B, that some prints on it had checked to a known criminal who had confessed the shooting. He asked me if I wanted to come over.
It's an incredible turn of events. Raises perfect hob with the girl's statement. In any case, we thought to bill from it. Yet on the other hand... Oh, here. I should like to have you meet Mr. Roy Church.
What are you doing back, Copper? You beat it out of me, so now you've got it.
You dropped quite a bombshell into this, Mr. Church.
Tell Mr. Dollar in your own words how you came to kill Mr. Murphy.
Why should I? You've told him, haven't you?
No, I doubted he would believe me.
I'd like to hear, Church.
His ruddy brother said he was going to pay me to do it.
Paul Murphy?
Yes. Promised me £500, he did. Paid me 100, and I waited 2 blinking weeks on that cliff for his brother to take his walk. Then I got welshed by the dirty beggar. That's why I had to sell the pistol.
Tell him why, Mr. Church.
I was supposed to take this here Murphy's wallet to make it look like robbery. But he fell over the cliff when I shot him, and I couldn't reach him.
That'll be all, Mr. Church. Thank you very much.
Think nothing of it.
Well, Mr. Dollar?
Well, this means there isn't a word of truth in that signed statement, except that maybe she heard the shot. She didn't see the men leave the house or Paul come back. She didn't know anything.
Yes, a rather spiteful statement, but fortunately true in content. They did have the man killed. I don't know what to do about that girl. What would you do?
Well, luckily, I can leave the whole mess in your hands, Inspector. But I wish you'd come up and work a nice, simple Hartford murder with me sometime. Do you good. Expense account item 2, same as item 1, transportation back to Hartford. Item 3, miscellaneous expenses, $204.80. Expense account total, $734.40. Remarks? I can't help wondering what would have happened if Felice's sworn statement had been entirely false and the widow and Paul entirely innocent. I wonder if they would have been hanged anyway. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and is written by Gil Dowd with music by Wilbur Hatch. Edmund O'Brien can soon be seen starring in the Paramount Pictures Technicolor production, Silver City. Featured in tonight's cast were Eric Snowden, Virginia Gregg, Jeanette Nolan, Ben Wright, Charles Davis, and Dan O'Hurley. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is transcribed in Hollywood by Jaime Del Valle.
This is Dan Cubberly inviting you to join us next week at this time when Edmund O'Brien returns as...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Lovers of fine music are already familiar with the strong, melodious voices of the Choraleers on CBS Radio. This is to remind our many Sunday night Choraleers listeners that this excellent choral group will be heard at a new, earlier time on most of these stations starting tomorrow. Stay tuned now for the Vaughn Monroe Show, which follows immediately on most of these same stations. And remember, those lovable rascals Amos and Andy are here every Sunday on the CBS Radio Network.
Welcome back. Well, Johnny definitely has some legitimate and serious concerns as the episode ends, knowing how much our legal system is based on true testimony. The idea of someone using false testimony to obtain a conviction, absolutely chilling, and so it kind of explored that here, though it turned out the brother was still guilty, though I did not catch where there was anything revealed that really implicated the wife as the daughter's testimony alleged. All right, now we turn to listener comments and feedback. Thanks for bringing to life this slice of radio drama from a past and much missed era. I love being entertained while not having to stare at a screen, giving me the freedom to do other things as well. Adam, the host, who adds to the show with his friendly, insightful commentary. From Tom. Well, thanks a lot, Tom, and I definitely appreciate the freedom of movement in radio. In fact, I've developed an interesting habit with certain television programs where I'll actually be looking at something else while the television is on, just imagining that it's a big radio. Of course, visually intense programs doesn't work too well with, but yeah, it's listening to so much radio does affect one's viewing habits. Then another comment, Adam has great shows and comments. Always enjoy the shows and his comments, plus the videos are a real treat. And then a very high compliment indeed from Val, the one podcast I would take to a desert island. Well, thanks so much, Val, and thank you to all our listeners out there. I appreciate all your support. By the way, follow up on something I stated yesterday. I stated that Moonstone Books did not have any posters of Golden Age detectives, which I was kind of surprised on, because Moonstone did several graphic novels based on old-time radio detectives. But I did find out they do have a Cafe Press store, mainly dealing in T-shirts. They've got Boston Blackie, Bulldog Drummond, and, of course, yours truly, Johnny Dollar, as some of those that they've got some swag for. So if you go to cafepress.com, search for the Moonstone Books area, you can get some of their T-shirts that way, or at least take a look at the images available. And I'll also let you know that for those that I've added another series to the list of programs that we will eventually do. It's the show Stand By for Crime, and a mid-50s show, syndicated. And for those of you who have the app or the premium site, I've gone ahead and I've added a sample episode for your listening pleasure. Well, that will do it for this week. We'll be back on Monday with Barrie Craig, confidential investigator, and perhaps we'll also start our experiment in listener support. And then on Friday, we will be here again with another episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.